All right. All right, everybody. So let's get in this video. So I guess I wanted to go over this because I know Daho, you've been going over like all the, sort of how I guess you've been going over like how people are I guess not only getting indoctrinated into the right wing, but also like the roots and basis of their ideology, which is like, maintaining hierarchy and control,
Yep.
which is like that's their whole thing is maintenance of hierarchy.
Yes.
And this ties into it really, really well because this is so basically what this is about is people from South Asia who come over to, to different countries, like whether it's Australia or the US or, the UK or Europe, or Canada. In your case, Daho, Europe, you're in Canada. I'm in the
I'm a dirty leaf. Dirty leaf that emigrated from Romania, from East Europe.
yeah, and I'm an American who immigrated from India, but and of course, in America now we don't have a Department of Education. Amazing. Amazing. Yeah. Yeah, things are falling apart here pretty quickly. But hey, but yeah, this video kind of ties into all that because it's about how Hindutva, I guess Rohan will talk about it, but basically what
Mm.
Hindutva is, it's this sort of recasting of Hinduism as a Hindu identity, kind of like Zionism is Jewish
Yes,
identity.
or
Very similar.
evangelicalism, pretty much
Mhm.
one-to-one comparisons, right? As you very well know, if I may do my little preamble here, a
And then we
preamble.
get it.
So obviously, I've not really engaged much with Rohan's content before, but I've done some spattering of mentions here of Hindutva nationalism. For certain, I'm not as well educated upon the subject as you are, considering well, you are from the subcontinent. I mean, you kind of have to know about this stuff because you are directly affected by the
Mhm.
insanity that is Hintuva nationalism. So
Yeah.
you generally come into my chat. You talk about like southeastern, like Asian politics and whatnot. It's, mostly coming from the Indian subcontinent, of course. And
Mhm.
generally speaking, it's just like the only I think segment I've done was about like the Sri Lankan like gas crisis. I think that's like the
Mm.
only thing because it popped up and I was intrigued. Because I did like a little yap session about it. This was like a while ago. But
I remember, yeah.
yeah, generally speaking, in terms of this topic, um, I mostly see it as like you have like the Tulsi Gabbards of the world and like the Kash Patels and Vivek Ramaswamy's. The Rohan also gets into this in his well put together video, um, talking about like, hey, like it's all sort of like culminated into sort of this administration. I would more or less say like the sort of influence of like the RSS and the VHPA and all these other organizations is very very prominent and clear. And I mean it's n- not really any different to like say like APAC or DMFI or any other sort of like right wing nationalist lobby advocating for particular fascistic interests. That's like the I picked up on that like pretty much instantaneously, and I'm just like, hmm. So, in terms of like a lot of the arguments that are presented here, it's pretty much like you can make like one-to-one comparisons, analogy, whatnot to Israel, to other such lobbies from the past.
Mhm.
Like the America First like lobby of like ye back in the 1930s and shit like that. We all know about those guys.
Yep.
Um,
And yeah, there's Hindutva lobby in Canada and the USA, and of
yes,
course in the UK.
yes,
Like in the US, we have the Hindu America Foundation, and
yes.
there's a couple others. And then I guess in Canada they have similar. I know the VHP, which is one of the fascist orgs out of India. They have chapters in like 15 or 20
Well,
countries,
they're
including
probably
the U.S. and Canada.
they're probably a lot less prominent up here in Canada now, especially considering the fact that the tensions due to the RSS's assassination on that one Sikh. I always forget. I never remember his name. I'm so bad with names. The one Sikh separatist that was
Mm.
assassinated. And I mean, I even have my own potential personal story to share here. Allow me, if you allow me to share with your chat.
Sure thing, and then we can get into
Yeah,
it.
we
So
can
yeah.
get into it.
Mhm.
My next door neighbor in the sort of the cul-de-sac that I live in, his car was literally parked out in front. He's got like a bunch of cars. He's like a factory owner or whatever, and he's Indian. I have no idea about what any of his like political predilections or religious affiliations are. I have no idea, but one of his cars on the driveway was lit on fire, and there was three suspects, and
Mhm.
they were all Indian. And it was crazy. I'm just like, oh shit, are these like potential like Hindutva nationalists? Are these like RSS people? Like, what did they do? Were they like fired from a factory job or some shit? Are they just like, is it like just petty revenge and stuff like that? It was wild to me. And also like, I I have like no idea about like any like political reasonings, but it's bad. I know like Rohan gets into that, like all like all the shit that the Hintufa lobby like has done and whatnot,
Mhm.
and also like a lot of the history of that as well as going back to the British Raj and the overall sort of maintenance of caste and whatnot. And I mean the comparisons, just like you said, systems of control, like Deleuze and Guattari sort of essay withstanding, the maintenance of hierarchy and these like potential like vestiges of control is it's a one-to-one comparison, like, but it's like used on like religious like ethnic basis, very similar
Mhm.
to evangelical Christianity or Zionism. It's the systems are pretty much one-to-one.
Yep. Yeah, and there's Hindutva has some complexities because you have the caste system. That's the main sort of
Mm-hmm.
differentiator with it. But yeah, we'll get into that. I think Rohan explains caste really, really well. So I don't want to steal
Yes.
his thunder. So yeah, 1.5x should be fine. If it's too fast, let me know. We can get a 1.2.
Sure.
But yeah,
Yeah, let's get her started.
vamos. Or as we say in Hindi and Urdu, chalo, chalo,
Chalo.
chalo.
Good
Indeed.
word.
Here we go.
$96 billion was paid into the tax system by undocumented immigrants in 2022.
And how much money are they taking from the government in benefits?
They're not getting it back.
They entered the country illegally and they should be kicked out, and all their children, all of them should be kicked out if they entered illegally.
Yeah, that's fighting
So
words from you, buddy.
yeah, so that's really funny because that's literally the exact same shit that Elon Musk just said.
Hmm.
For like Democrats to get like voters from like illegal migrants, which is a complete conspiracy theory. First
Yeah.
off, it's already illegal for them to vote, okay? Second off, they pay undocumented immigrants pay taxes and their
Hmm.
money goes
That's
into
right.
Social Security because they work. So naturally 6.25% of their paycheck goes to Social Security. But they can't get any of those benefits because they're not citizens. So it's just
Yeah,
like
it's robbery.
how
Straight up robbery.
how exactly how like again how exactly are they supposed to be benefiting then, Mr. like make America great again, like Indian I assume nationalist here? That's a immediate fucking question. How do they do that?
Yeah, and there's an overlap between, the MAGA movement and the Hindutva movement in India. There's a
Mm-hmm.
whole like effort by the BJP in India to basically do like world conservatism. It's like really scary stuff. But they have like every year in Delhi they have like a world conservatism conference or something. And they invite like conservatives from all over the world, like
Oh,
like
it's
even
like CPAC for
Europe.
them, right? I assume.
It's like an international CPAC, but like centered around, Indian politics. It's like really messed up. But
That's really
uh,
interesting.
yeah. But anyways, that's sort of one reason why you see this in my diaspora. And yeah, he's not representing us well. Brother, you're not representing us well.
Yeah, that's L take L for India. Yeah.
Not sending our best.
Not sending your best. Listen, I know all that too well. Stenhock is a Canadian.
Anyways. Sorry, Styles in my chat. Styles is actually also South Asian. Here in my chat, we're all in our chat together. Our chat. It says, indeed, comrade. But yeah, Styles is out over in the UK and is originally, I think, from Bangladesh. Or family background is from Bangladesh. But yeah, reminds me of the first gen or recent South Asian migrants supporting Tories in the UK. Yep.
Oh God,
That's a
dude.
thing.
And those
Yeah.
people were BJP probably, yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, yeah, let's continue. But yeah, the juxtapose of this Indian American guy wearing a MAGA hat, and then the story about the 112 Indian deportees who were in shackles on a
Yes.
military plane to India. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, let
Who
her
that
rip.
guy? Yeah.
If they do not belong, they should be sent back.
Look, when I look at what my parents did when they came to this country 40 years ago, they've been through a bit of hardship. They didn't come to this country with very much money, so they taught me in my childhood. Was
You
that
worked
hardship
as an
isn't the same thing as
engineer,
victimhood, and
patents,
that stuck with me and served me well
shit
ever
like
since.
that.
Hardship is not the same. Sorry, that went. Vivek talks fast. He's a real tech bro. Yeah. Let's go over that again.
They taught me in my childhood was that hardship isn't the same thing as victimhood, and that stuck with me and served me well ever since.
You know, the way
Yeah,
you just
and,
described
like,
your parents,
both-
that describes the original
Both this
colonists that came
family are
over
part of
and
the
left England.
bourgeoisie.
Totally.
It's hilarious.
Wait. This guy in the hat. What did he say?
The way you just described your parents, that describes the original colonists that came over and left England.
You realize you're talking to an Indian guy, right? And you're saying, "Oh, that's like the colonists who came over from England."
I don't think I don't think Vivek really cares.
That sailed over his head.
If Vivek could have an opportunity to restore the British Raj, he would restore.
He would.
He would.
He would.
Because he's Brahmin, right? Like he'd benefit from the British Raj, so we wouldn't give a
Yeah.
shit.
And for anybody who doesn't know what Brahmin means, Brahmin is the highest sort of group of castes in
Yes,
India.
exactly.
They're
They're like the bourgeoisie. You can say that basically. It's similar. Well, not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily always bourgeois, but like as like if we're talking about a sort of like Marxist like terms or whatever, like yeah, these would be the guys, the Brahmins owning the means of production.
You got it. There we go. But yeah, this is such a crazy strategy.
England totally to a place that had, I mean, it was wild land that they came to over here.
Whoa. Bro, you're not telling them the whole story.
What's up, Rohan?
You see, this is where Vivek's family is historically from. His family's ancestral home was here, in this Malayalam and Tamil-speaking Agraharam in Kerala, Palakkad. To the average American, this might not mean much, so allow me to illustrate. An Agraharam is an ethnically segregated
quick
settlement.
question. Where exactly is that region located? Is that like
Southwestern coast of India. So it's in the south.
Okay.
Yeah, so Kerala, I just pulled it up on the it should show in the browser too, on
yeah, I
the
see.
screen share. Yeah, but yeah, let's pull a geography lesson. There's the whole country of India, and yeah, you're
Yes,
going
because
this in the southwest corner.
From what I understand, broadly speaking, the BJP mostly pulls its support, I believe, from the northern part of the country. That's where like
Yes.
more of the Brahmins live, I believe. Is that accurate?
Well,
to
I mean,
say, I think.
You'll find Brahmins everywhere, because I mean you'll find them everywhere. But I'll explain to you the whole north-south divide. Okay, so there's a couple of divides going on. The first is it's a language divide, right? Because in the north you have Indo-Aryan languages,
Right.
like Hindi, Urdu, Punjabi, Gujarati, Bhojpuri, all those languages. And then when you go to the south, there's a whole different family of languages. It's like the difference between like Japanese and English. You have what are called Dravidian languages, and that's when you hear languages like Tamil or Telugu or Malayalam. Malayalam is spoken in Kerala. Yeah, and then of course Arun, our good friend Arunano, he is from Tamil Nadu, so he's from the neighboring state just next door to Kerala. So he's down in the south. And then I'm from way up north. Okay, so I'm from Uttar Pradesh, which is way up north. Welcome to Chat Sock. Now, yes, we are collabing with our friend Daharumba, and yeah, thanks for catching. Thanks for catching the stream for the first time. But yeah, so yeah, I'm from like Uttar Pradesh and near Delhi. That's where I'm from. So Arun and I are from the same country, but if we speak our regional languages, we can't understand each other.
Totally like different wild thing. This ain't
Yeah.
this ain't like North Italy versus South Italy type deal.
No.
right? Like this is like basically it takes that whole dynamic and like throws in like steroids and like meth at the same time to make like this supercharged crazy like sort of like dynamic or some shit, right? Like some
Pretty
crazy
much, yeah.
shit.
Yeah, because I mean, you have to think like India wasn't a concept until the British Raj, right? Before that, it was all
Right.
like disparate kingdoms and empires and
Yeah, like the
regions and
Mughals and shit
language
like that, right?
regions. Well, the Mughals were they were from the outside too. They're from Persia and from Mongolia.
Oh, okay.
But like the original peoples of the subcontinent are like really really diverse. It's almost like Africa's diversity level. Like it's almost that level of
Oh,
diversity.
okay. Like yeah, types
Yeah.
of different tribes and shit like that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like different, I guess, like empires who may not have been able to penetrate deep south or some shit or whatever.
Yeah,
there's so many different like Indian subcontinent empires that have like existed throughout history. Like it's crazy.
yeah. Yeah, and Sock now is correct. There is like a neutral Hindi, like common phrase, common sort of. There's like common thing. There's like a common way to speak Hindi. It's mainly up north though. If I go to southern India and speak Hindi, they're not going to understand me very well. Like they're going to understand me better in English, or if I speak some of their language, like if I speak a little bit of Tamil when I'm down in Tamil Nadu or whatever. But yeah, like generally when I talk to South Indian people or people from like the northeast arm of India, like you go toward Assam and toward like Nagaland and those places, toward like
Right.
Myanmar, I speak to those people in English. It's just easier. So
Yeah,
English
yeah,
is our
that's-
English is our linked language. Yeah, thanks,
yeah,
Britain.
the common language of the land. Okay, yeah.
Anyways, back to it. So yeah, he's talking about just oh sorry. So what he's talking about here is in India, because there's a lot of caste segregation in our
Yes.
cities and in our villages. So
Yes.
Agraharam, it's a hard word to say, but Agraharam is basically only where Brahmins live. That's basically it. So it's like a village consisting of fields. It's like a land ownership by Brahmins, basically.
I'll do the direct comparison here, like a plantation, similar to that, like of like European
close.
colonies. Yeah, like rather similar, right? Or like I think more accurate would probably be to say, sort of like in feudal societies, because this is like an immediate comparison. Like Rohan gets into this, but it's something I thought of immediately. Like India still also is experiencing like a form of like feudalism, like quite unironically, where like lower caste people are forced to take care of the fields for the Brahmins on top, essentially.
Yep.
And they probably do it through the Agraharam.
You got it.
There we
See,
go.
there you go.
Allow me to illustrate.
All right.
An Agraharam is an ethnically segregated settlement exclusive for Brahmins, with the main temple of the town nearby. Other families considered lower are not allowed to even cast their shadows on the grounds inside many of these settlements.
And
for the longest time,
dude.
they were not even allowed to enter the temples. It was generations of struggle by marginalized caste folks that even allowed them the access to enter the temples, usually
Like,
attached to Agraharams.
Funnily enough, like it wasn't like it was bad obviously in feudalism in Europe. I have no idea, honestly. I can't think of like such a level of like class disparity such that like if you like had peasants going to like the lord's sort of estate or whatever during like feudal Europe, like even if you were to cast like a shadow upon their like land, like they would like face some kind of consequence. That like when I heard that, I'm like, that's fucking crazy. 'Cause, like that's like what I'm gonna mostly compare it to. It's what I have the most knowledge about is like feudal Europe, but like it was expected for like the peasantry within Europe to be able to deliver like as tax, like whatever was tilled from the fields to their lord, right? So they can give they're also like tithe to the king or whatever. At least that's how it worked. But like the idea that like what like then like how would these be like would there be like random like middle managers to like collect this sort of like what produce that was like tilled by the fields of like the peasantry or lower caste people effectively? Is that like sort of how it works?
I wouldn't. It's more of sort of like I would say it's less that because again, the way agriculture works in India is interesting because for a long time, up until like modern, like with like modern, capitalist distribution, the way people would buy veggies or milk or whatever would be through what were called these like informal markets, what they call mandis, right? So markets, and so basically, the farm workers wouldn't like directly sell. Like they wouldn't directly sell they would their crops to like they wouldn't directly sell them in a market. Like you'd have like a vendor who like picked them up and then carted them into the city. And like so like if you go to any of these countries, India or the Philippines or wherever, you'll see like these informal markets, and that's like kind of how that works. So it's not so much like a sharecropping system. I'm sure that was probably a thing under Mughal rule because that was like feudal imperial rule.
Right.
But I think it was probably less. I think it became less of a thing under British rule. Although the thing, like you mentioned, the segregation, right? A lot of that was actually enforced by the British as well, because they, despite them, some people might think, oh, they went over to Christianize and civilize India. It's like, no, they used the existing power structures to control and quote civilize. So they emphasized and enforced caste segregation.
Yeah, because they wanted
Mm-hmm.
it to be the crown jewel of their empire.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's quite literally what the British Raj was called. Like,
Yep.
like that's where like the whole meme of like, yeah, the sun never sets in the British Empire. And it's like, well, that's quite
Yeah.
literally true.
If you go to the city of Kolkata, that's over by Bangladesh, right? If you go to the city of Kolkata, there's actually Queen Victoria's palace. She had a royal palace built in Kolkata. Like they don't like the royalty used to go between. Yeah, so it was like it was like they were almost like building like a new center of their empire in South Asia. Yeah, it's pretty wild. You can go see it.
That's
Um,
crazy.
Yep.
That's crazy.
But anyways, yeah, there you go. That's what an agraharam is basically.
Yeah.
Kerala, outside the settlement, were rice paddies. This is where your rice grows. And who works these fields? Marginalized caste folks who slaved away to give most of their produce and earnings to the temple at the center as taxes. That same temple built by marginalized caste folks. The temple was
So they build a temple, but they can't enter it. They have to go to their own lower caste temple.
It's
Yeah.
literally like the exact same shit that happens in like all the fucking like Gulf states as well. I know that Rohan also brings up the Gulf states, like the same sort of like feudalistic system. It's quite crazy because like even then like
Allah.
marginalized people in Europe, they were the ones who built the churches and all that stuff. They were allowed to enter it. Like maybe like not the 100% pristine versions, like probably like smaller versions or whatever, but they were allowed to enter. They could go in. This is like this is on like another level. This is crazy.
Oh, absolutely. Yep. Yeah, this is pretty ridiculous.
Yeah.
usually owned by a committee of Brahmin men from the Agraharam itself. They would enrich themselves through the proceeds of the temple and then trickle down some of those resources to the middle manager castes, the overseers and supervisors. They would give them titles and so on and pat them on the back while the people...
Quite literally, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and it's gonna trickle down, folks. It's gonna trickle down.
It's gonna trickle down to the lower castes. It's gonna go from the upper from first we gotta give money to the British royalty. Very important that we give it to the colonial officers, and then it's gonna go down to the upper castes, and then the middle castes, and it'll eventually get to the lower castes, folks. Let me tell you, very important.
Thanks, Reza. Appreciate it. Tahoe's is clearly better.
Very, very cool.
Yeah. Okay, but yeah, there you go. Yeah, so yeah, this is literally like this is like a more extreme example. For example, here, like the Nair Brigade. So Nair is probably a last name you've heard of, right? In like an Indian last name. It's a pretty common one down south. But Nairs were sort of so if you know, Brahmin are like the top, those are the top group of castes, and then there's like 4 other levels. There's like Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, and Dalit. Dalit is the lowest, or what people used to call untouchable, but I don't use that term. I use Dalit. the Dalit castes. So they are considered the lowest.
Mm.
But Nayars were Kshatriya. They were so basically the Nayar brigade. They were in this example, the Brahmin landlords used to use Nayars as like guards, watchmen, and
Paramilitary
people to.
forces.
Oh, essentially, yeah, or like
Yeah.
even like police, like an early version of police. And so the chief was like a kshatriya, so it's like the second level down on the caste pyramid, appointed by the eldest Brahmin of the village, of course.
Yeah.
Feudalism. Yeah, but
It's
that's an
like,
example
it's
of
like
it.
a tribal feudalism. It's like
Very.
Marx, like if like because Marx talks about the sort of like transition between systems of like all the different forms of means of production. This is it's sort of like the sort of like a middle state between like the transition from tribal like societies to like the more feudal sort of society. This is crazy, honestly.
Hmm. Yep.
and supervisors. They would give them titles and so on, and pat them on the back, while the people at the bottom would get maybe 2 pieces of cloth. This was the gist of a temple-centric society. It used
Oh, sorry, I paused.
bonded labor for some intermediary castes and chattel slavery for other castes further down the chain, all to maintain a permanent underclass. The workers did not own the mud huts they lived in or the land that they tilled, while the Brahmin children
Yeah,
of the Agraharams
similar
were
to
able to become
European
landlords,
feudalism.
business owners, scholars, advisors to kings, and later advisors to the British during the British Raj, when many folks were able to go to England and receive education. This is the real legacy of Vivek Ramaswamy. And it's these systems of resource management, control, and segregation for the maintenance of a permanent underclass that we talk about when we mention caste. Vivek Ramaswamy has no problem bad-mouthing black folks in the US and being complicit in the maintenance of white supremacy because his family tradition is rooted in similar systems, justified
Yes.
and fortified by Brahminical reasoning
comparison
and
is
biological determinism.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
that's
the
go ahead.
comparison is you can pretty much make the one-to-one sort of comparisons between like maintenance of like evangelical like white supremacy to like the sort of caste system, because like quite literally if we want to talk like American sort of history here, the same shit essentially happened within Jim Crow, failure of Reconstruction, blah 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 blah.
Mhm.
You can like talk about all this particular nonsense. Like I wouldn't be surprised if the British might have taken some notes from like the Americans in terms of like sort of showing like the Brahmins like here's how like some things you can do through like the educational attainment they got through Britain. I wouldn't be surprised. Like this is like a theory that I'm positing. I have no evidence to support this at all, so this is like complete
I'll hear it out.
conspiracy. But it's like Brahmins went to like go get education within like England. What do you think is like the likelihood that the British sort of like instilled the sort of like ideas that like American sort of like race maintenance of like racial hierarchy also made in those like potential curriculums, because a lot of the ideas there can also be applied to the caste system, right? Which is why
Yeah,
the
and
Brahmins have no problem being racist against like Muslims or black people. Like they have no problem. It's all they like in their minds. They think they're also like upholding their own sort of form of like white supremacy, even though like it's contradictory and strange, because they think a lot of like because like I see this on like some of these accounts. They also think that they themselves are white, and that always like pisses off like white nationalists. Even though like
it's the funniest thing.
even though they do like because they do a lot of the exact same strategies
Yeah.
with of the maintenance of
Mhm.
racial hierarchy, but it's like for like the sort of like lower castes. And this is also something that I've noticed a lot. Like it's a lot of like much darker skinned Indians, right? Like
Mm.
like and I guess like more lighter skinned sort of like tend to be like Brahmins or whatever, like a lot of lighter skinned Indians, like the sort of like colorism sort of thing. You can see it because it's like the exact same sort of systems. It's not like a one-to-one thing in terms of like, say, the sort of like justifications, but it's like you can see the analogies, and I'm wondering if like they sort of like got these ideas through like sort of like, I mean, maybe cultural osmosis isn't like 100% the correct term here, but through like some form of like education or like something that the British took in terms of in terms of inspiration from like American style racism, and like sort of used that as a way to maintain caste within the British Raj, because we all know who did the British support during the American Civil War? It was the South, because they
Yep.
wanted that cotton for their
Oh, yeah.
industries. We know, like,
Mhm.
I wouldn't be surprised. That wouldn't be below the British to do.
No, and part of it too. So Hindutva, like modern Hindutva ideology, came about in like the late 1800s. So it was around the same time of Jim Crow in the United States, just after emancipation, by Lincoln, and then of course that's where sort of German nationalism came to be under Bismarck, right, under Otto von Bismarck.
Yes.
So like that, it came about in that same time period, and you may have and maybe Rohan will cover it, or at least allude to it. I think with Brahmins getting that British education, I wonder if that fed into the creation of Hindutva as a sort of kind of white. It has this like white supremacist
Yes,
structure
like,
to it.
yeah, because they can't do like the same white identitarian
No, no, no,
stuff.
they can't.
They can't do that. So they have to kind
Yeah.
of spin it, because cultural osmosis, right? Through German nationalism and like even like probably like shit from the British as well. Like this happens all the time. Like American cultural osmosis has been relevant for the past at least 150 years, if not longer. Like a lot of like cultural movements and stuff have spread from America. It's quite ridiculous. It's not just Hollywood that's the sort of cultural hegemon. America's been a cultural hegemon for a very long time, I would say.
Couple hundred years. Yeah, a couple hundred years. And then the other thing too, you have to remember Brahmin. So where does the caste system come from? It originally comes from sort of later developments in Hinduism, when Hinduism was more syncretized. Because you got to remember, it's polytheistic. It was never unified from the get-go. It sort of coalesced over time through empires and
Yes, I saw some
through
Kings
that.
and Generals videos about this. It was very interesting.
Yes. Yeah, and there's a couple. I can send you a couple videos about how like modern Hinduism was basically invented by the British in a way, because what they wanted to what they by through their enforcement of the caste system, like strict enforcement of it. And so what you have to remember is Brahmins consider themselves pure enlightened beings. So it's very similar to whiteness. If you're white, you are pure, right? It's
Yes.
this purity
Yeah. It's
thing.
a
That's
whole thing. Yeah,
Yep.
which is why like it also makes sense, because like you see quite a few of these like weirdo like Indo-Aryan accounts talking about like, oh,
Seen
we're like
those.
we're the original sort of Aryans, and it's always like some fucking like Brahmin Hindu nationalist type. It's just like, or like the sort of like greater India type dudes. It's just like,
Yes.
I'm like, holy shit. Well, I'm like my fucking like brain is being opened. I'm just like, holy shit! It's like these people are like the exact same in terms of rhetoric, but they're never gonna accept. Like it's like, little bro, you're never gonna be accepted amongst the whiteys. You ain't white. like it's over for you from the get go, which is very funny. Cause like it's funny because like like all the sort of like recent No, this is real.
They actually share this meme on Twitter.
That doesn't surprise me at all. Like these dudes are unironically, they're crazy, they're wild.
Yep.
Like, yeah. What was my point that I was gonna say? Because they do like a lot of the sort of like, oh well, we're like we're the original Aryans, because Indo-Aryan, that's our region, which is like always very interesting how like Nazis sort of like tried to justify like Aryanness being like from the Norse and whatnot, even though it's like a lot of it's like inspired from this shit. It's very, very strange to me.
All the
like the sort of
revisionism.
all the revisionism to like justify political ends, constant thing with conservatives.
Yep. So yeah, that's kind of like where it comes from. I think Rohan explains it. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, Brahmanical reasoning and biological determinism. Yikes. Yeah. Here we go.
Justified and fortified by Brahminical reasoning and biological determinism. The oppression of marginalized castes exists for one thing: capital gain. I illustrate this because
Mm-hmm.
it is one of the core misunderstandings people have when trying to understand how a Vivek Ramaswamy or a Kashyap Patel can exist, and why they get along so well with other beneficiaries of cruel systems like apartheid. These agraharams haven't gone away, by the way. They're still around, and many mansions still have bonded laborers attached to them. The Dalit or indigenous laborer is usually made to live in a shack at a calculated distance away from the mansion. And tall trees,
That is
usually
fucking
coconut trees,
crazy.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause
Yeah, this
that,
is really
like,
common in India. You'll see it.
Like in what, like they don't do that in like, okay, they, I guess like with redlining, it's not exactly the same. Like they have like do they unironically like measure out how far they're supposed to be or some shit? Because like it's more institutionalized, I guess. Like it's sort of like in a law sort of form, the sort of like redlining and like segregation of like the U.S. In this, it's like way more wild or some shit. It's like
This
the
is
basis
more
for it is like
the basis is cultural, right? It's done more
yes.
culturally by people who are like, upper caste landowners. And I don't know like exactly like what it may depend on even the caste or the specific tradition of Hinduism they come from, because you go to one part of the subcontinent, Hinduism has some different like particulars compared to like if you go down to the south, or if you go down to Kerala or Tamil Nadu. Like if you it changes because the names of the gods have changed. There's different avatars for different gods. Like it gets really confusing really quick. But it's a similar pattern you see. It's just the particulars are different depending on the region. But there is still this like so the thing with the caste system, it's not mandated by the Indian government. That's the whole thing. Is like, yeah, it wasn't strictly enforced by the British for sure, but then when independence came, the Constitution specifically said, yeah, we do not discriminate on caste and those kind of things. But unfortunately, while it's not mandated by the government, it's not written into law that you have to, that you say cannot, like, there's no law technically in India that says you can't marry someone outside your own caste or something like that, right? There's no law, but it's culturally enforced by, by existing structures, existing hierarchies that are maintained through capitalism, through family tradition, through property, the owning and inheritance of property, and of course arranged marriage, right? Arranged marriage, and a lot of arranged marriage, there's different ways it manifests. So in Hinduism, it's through astrology, so they do astrological matchmaking and stuff. Whereas in other religions, like in Islam and in
Wait.
Sikhism and Christianity, sorry, go.
Well,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
is it unironically like I'm a
Mhm.
Pisces and you're a Capricorn, which means I don't have no idea what like the matches are supposed to be. That means we really gel. Is it unironically like that shit?
At a surface level, yes, and the priest helps you sort of determine that. And of course the priest, because temples, they keep like a log of like the family lineage, so they compare the family lineages and all that stuff. Numerology is a lot of gobbledygook that I don't buy, because what's interesting is, because I come from a Christian community in India, and Christians are a minority. It's like 5% maybe of the population. It's still 80 million Christians. It's still a lot of people.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you're talking about over a
India,
billion.
yeah. It just got a lot of people in it.
The most, in fact. We've already surpassed China. So the thing is that the in Christianity, it's more sort of like we're Christians are more tolerant of like dating and stuff, even though they're still very sexually repressed. They are more tolerant of like dating and more modern approaches to marriage.
Yes.
Muslims are too, to a large degree, but like yeah, in especially Brahmin Hindus, they are really really bent on arranged marriage. That's like their default, and if you try to go against that, like it's considered like dishonoring to the family. So there is a very strong honor culture that goes along with all this as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's again, as Arun says, Arun happens to be from a Hindu family, although he's not like a practicing Hindu. But he comes from there, and he's like, yeah, I don't really buy most of this.
Yeah, yeah.
Like he's very secular, you know, and I'm definitely like a religious Christian, but I'm more on like on the sort of liberation slash anarchist side of Christianity, whereas you know most Christians would be on sort of the fascist or conservative side these days. So yeah, minority position, but hey, hopefully you know I can get my fellow Christians down in South Asia to start to think that way. That's the goal. But anyways, yeah, that's kind of how it works. Like with that's kind of how caste like permeates itself in like property, marriage, employment as well. So what kind of profession you're going to be doing. Like you do what your dad did, basically. That kind of gets reinforced through it. And of course, it's you know reinforced to the temple. But we do have caste divisions in other religions. Like in Islam, caste sort of carried over because it was like part of the feudal system of the Mughals. And that's how they like divided up labor and class in society. And then Christianity, there's some weird dynamics where like they'll start a church in a lower caste community, and then people from the upper caste, like the churches and upper caste, you know, majority communities who were converted, they don't tend to associate with people in the because it's just physically segregated. So it's kind of it's not fixing that problem, you know, it's not integrating people.
That's interesting. Yeah, like there is
yeah.
an attempt by the Christians to try to like have some kind of
Very hard.
integration, but it's just like it's because of like I don't know whatever state law or cultural enforcement just kind of prevents that from happening. It's interesting.
Yeah, and the legacy of physical segregation, that's part of it too. But
Right,
yeah, I mean, but yeah, that's a whole other topic. So anyways, that should give you some context.
Planted between the mansion and the shack, so the head of the house doesn't have to look upon the shack. For fear of spiritual pollution. It is this caste privilege
That's so
that allows
lazy.
Vivek's family to attain higher forms of education well before a Dalit child was even allowed to enter a school. If the Dalits are at school, who's going to work the fields for no pay? Now, of course, this goes without saying, not everyone from a privileged caste is like this, but this history of benefiting from oppression like this is what makes Vivek's situation so much worse.
Yeah, and so now this goes into the section of like American Hindutva, which this is probably going to shock some people. Yeah, in the you know South Asian people are I think the second largest group of immigrants in the United States now, right after Latina people.
It's probably the largest in Canada. It would probably be Southeast Asians in Canada.
Yeah, South and Southeast Asia, yeah, for sure. I mean, and obviously there's like a large like Chinese diaspora as well. You know, oh, sorry, Jet just says in our chat here, since it's shared, Boy Meets Mini is one of the good Christians. Kappa, I'm goofing. We need more Christians like you. Thank you, sir. Thank you. We trying. You know, many people say this. So you might be so Daho. I don't know. You probably aren't surprised because I've talked to you about this before. But a lot of people would be surprised that this is a thing in America, England, Canada, Australia, like wherever
I know
you know the Gulf states.
Yeah, I know of the stories about like Canadian like Hindutva's and stuff like that doing like arranged marriages and shit. Yeah, I'm aware. That being a thing.
Yep. So it's the same down here. I mean, I'm in specifically I'm in Los Angeles. Los Angeles doesn't have as big of like a diaspora as say like Chicago or New York or Atlanta. Like that's where you find a lot of us, or San Francisco, because half of us are hackermans, tech bros. But yeah, even down here in LA, like there's like really big temples. Like there's a really big temple in Malibu, where they recently actually had fires. I don't know what state it's in, but there's like a really big temple, and it's like pure white, and it's like this beautiful building that they made there. But yeah, like down here we have everything. It's just like. But even in the community down here, I see it a little bit with caste, or sometimes we'll hear like the older like Gen X or Boomer uncles who came here in the 70s from India, and they worked and they're rich now and they own Teslas. I'm like, okay, so a little meme, Daho, a nice meme for you. You've probably heard you've probably seen like growing up, maybe you probably saw like really rich Indians driving Benzes and Lexuses, right? That was the car of choice. You either drove a Benz or a Lexus. Now they all drive Teslas. They got cringe. I'm like, you guys were cool before. You were driving Lexus. What happened?
No, that's real and true. Yeah, imagine downgrading yourself to a fucking Tesla, dude. Actually, kind of cringe. That's
Yeah.
shit, bro.
It's like like if you sit in a Lexus, it's like it has the best sound system, it's soundproofed, it's like a studio on wheels, it's got the best seats, it's got the best of everything, and it doesn't cost too much. It's like, why would you leave that behind for swastika car? I don't understand.
So I don't know. That might be getting into later in the video. Okay.
Yeah, Rohan is gonna tear into the Tesla driving uncles. Just wait.
Why uncles, by the way? Is that like
So-
just why that term in particular? I'm curious.
It's just it's also a thing in Arab cultures as well. Like any elder person, like you call them uncle or auntie. Also, that's the thing in the black community as well. Unks and auntie. Yeah, unc and auntie, right? It's the same thing. It's just sort of respect for elders. That's all it is. And over there, like we have an interesting thing because like in Western countries we have nuclear family, right? Which thanks England again for that, but thanks Europe. But yeah, you have more nuclear families, whereas family in other parts of the world is a little more loosely defined because there are close friends, there's neighbors. Obviously, families are much bigger. You have multiple generations under one roof. Like it's different from the nuclear family model you have in the West. So India has kind of a weird mix of like we have the modern nuclear family, but we're very close knit with like relatives, cousins, and also with like neighbors we've known forever, like in that neighbor, like we still call them uncle and auntie, even though there's no blood relation. So it's just sort of like it's just like a respect for elders and like sort of other father figures and people in your community.
Yeah,
That's
it's like
basically
a
it.
sort of cultural signifier kind of deal. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, it's the same thing. And trust me, I've in college, I remember in university, I sometimes used to hang out with the Arab kids, like all the kids from like Saudi Arabia or Palestine or Iran or whatever. And yeah, they used to call their like somebody they knew like uncle or auntie, even though they weren't related. So I was like, oh yeah, we do that too.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. Anyways, yeah, American Hindutva. It's in America. Oh no, run for the hills.
Because to put it bluntly, some folks just don't want to share space in an office or a dining table with children of people who have historically been their slaves at worst, or society's manual scavengers, laborers, fishermen, leatherworkers, and craftsmen. Odd, because we wouldn't have this culture that we're also proud of if it weren't for those workers. They'd rather
True.
be around other Indians of respectable status and positions. Doctors, lawyers, children.
So, for those who don't know who that was, yeah. So
They'd rather be around.
do you know who that is? So that's John Kerry in the middle,
Sean
right?
Carey, yeah.
Who's to the left of him? Do you know who this guy is?
Oh God, I think Rohan covers him. I forget. I'm so bad with names. It wasn't this like Modi's like mentor or some shit.
No. This isn't Modi's mentor. He is India's richest man. This is the Elon Musk of India, guys. This is Mukesh. Mukesh Ambani, yes, and South Asian people in my chat are Ambani, Pega. They're already doing it. They already know. This guy is worth $119 billion, like as of last count. He's over the 100 billion mark, and I wonder where he got that money from. A lot of hardworking people in India, that's for sure. But yeah, this guy basically. Yeah, he owns India's oil industry. He has a lot of telecom, real estate, retail, energy, all that kind of stuff. Like he owns a conglomerate called Reliance. They're one of the biggest conglomerates in Asia. This guy is like triple digit billionaire, right up there with Elon Musk. And yeah, he right now is one of the main sort of like. He's like helping privatize huge chunks of the Indian government. He's been doing that for the past 10 years. And there's other billionaires too, like Adani, right? Adani is the other big guy. He's worth like 55 billion. But he privatized all the airports and stuff. So lovely. And by the way, Ambani, one of his main crimes right now that he's doing is he is buying up his company Reliance is buying up Russian crude that has been
Yes.
sanctioned from Western countries. So India's refining all the Russian crude or a lot of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
About to say,
Participating in war crimes.
I was about to say, oh man, he must be making a killing from the Russians right now.
Oh,
boy.
dude.
Probably why.
How do you think he get?
How did he become a 100 billionaire all of a sudden?
Exactly. Well, not all of a sudden. I mean,
Russia.
his family has been rich for a long time. Like his grandfather started Reliance as like a distribution company in like the late 1800s, and then it's just been building over time. But yeah, like his wealth has recently skyrocketed in like the last decade, partly thanks to the rise of the Modi administration, privatizing stuff, and then of course with Russia handing him oil. Amazing.
Amazing.
Yep. Someone a lot of Americans have probably not known about. Yeah. Ultra Nepo baby. Also, by the way, this guy and Rohan will get into this as well. Is he threw one of the most expensive weddings in history for his youngest son, who got married to another Nepo baby who is the daughter of a billionaire herself. So it was a $600 million wedding that lasted 8 months.
Gee.
That's how many parties, festivities, and they went all over the world. They had parties like all over the place. And then the main wedding ceremony was of course in Mumbai, in the biggest city in India. But yeah, it was what, $600 million wedding. I'm like, dude, how many
Is it
people?
8 months long. Why? Why is
Oligarchs, man. That's how they roll. Yep. Yeah, if Trump could never, he could never do that.
I have the quick wedding with the gold, and that's really about it. I just get done with it.
Yeah, there's videos about the Ambani wedding. You just look it up. It's pretty wild. Like your jaw will be on the floor the whole time. But anyways, yeah, that's who this guy is.
Other Indians of respectable status and positions. Doctors, lawyers, children of business tycoons and actors.
Yeah, Kim Kardashian was at Ambani's son's wedding. Justin Bieber performed there. It was fucking insane.
Who claim to have warrior ancestry, the creme de la creme of society. Caste in neoliberal capitalism is a match made in heaven.
Yeah.
Caste is inextricably tied to politics in India. It was not long ago that the Bharatiya Janata Party was jokingly known as the Bharatiya Patel Party in Gujarat.
That's funny. No, that's true. That's an actual meme, the Bharatiya Patel Party. So Bharatiya means Indian, and then so what BJP stands for, it actually translated means Indian People's Party, which is the funniest name to give that party. But they call themselves the Indian People's Party. So Bharatiya means Indian, Janta means people, and then party, of course.
Yeah.
So yeah, Indian People's Party. Yeah, okay. But yeah, because a lot of these, Patel is a very common name. You'll hear it all over the U.S. and Canada.
Yeah.
These people come from Gujarat state, which is in the if I look up here, Gujarat is in the northwest, so it's right here. You see this part of India that juts out into the Arabian Sea next to Pakistan? That's Gujarat. So this is actually where Ambani is from too, by the way. Yeah. My chat called it a Hitler state. Yeah, because this is literally where Hindutva like kind of came from. Modi is from here, by the way, too. So yeah. Indian Hitler, Fash Santa. We call him Fash Santa because he's got a big white beard, so we call him Fash Santa.
Yeah, he does look like a Indian Santa, but like the evil one from Futurama or some shit,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just imagine if I described to you Modi, think Indian evil Santa from Futurama. That's basically it. And so a lot of people in the BJP are from these Gujarati upper castes, and so they have the name Patel. It's a sort of a caste name that indicates they're from these like super high castes in Gujarat. But yeah, and even it's so crazy. Remember we talked about Kshatriya people, right? Who are like the second highest group of castes. Yes. There is no. The BJP is so elitist. There is not even a single Kshatriya leader elected from the BJP in Gujarat state. They're all Brahmins, all of them.
That's crazy.
And you have to keep in mind, Brahmins are like not even the top 10% of Indians. It's like top 10, 11% of Indian society is Brahmin. Like they're literally a numerical minority. and yet they're the ones like dominating all institutions.
Literally,
It's
yeah,
really messed
literally
up.
the same thing in like South African apartheid.
Oh, yeah.
This is the exact same fucking shit. It's wild,
Yeah.
basically. But it's like
Um,
native-born people. It's interesting,
mhm.
rather. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. This is real. This is how ingrained it is, unfortunately. So yeah, we've got a lot to do in South Asia. We got a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
owing to the fact that most of the first BJP MLAs and MPs from Gujarat were Patels. The Patels or Patidar community had been land tillers working under Kshatriya landlords in the past. However, after Indira Gandhi's decision to convert land tillers into landowners in Gujarat, the community became predominantly a landlord community. Skyrocketing land.
Oh, by the way, this is the RSS salute. Their heart goes out to us.
Yeah, there's some interesting hand motions going on here. Like,
Yeah, it's like
very flat for a particular reason. It's not pointing the right way exactly. They're trying to hide it a little bit, but you know.
yeah, they're memeing.
They're doing
Clearly,
They're doing a little bit of trolling. Just a little trolling.
yeah. By the way, you probably recognize this guy over here, Modi.
I thought that was
There's
Santa.
Modi.
Wait, that's Santa.
Same
That's
guy.
real? That's crazy.
Yeah, yeah, he's actually real. Yeah, this is Modi in like what, probably the late '90s, maybe early 2000s.
Bro
He's
has
obviously
had
much
that
older
white
now.
beard for that long?
I think so. How old is Modi? Is he in his 70s now or late 60s? He was born in 1950,
That's crazy.
so that means he's 75.
75? That's
He's pushing 75. Yeah, he doesn't look. I mean, I hate to glaze this guy. He doesn't look too bad for 75, does he? Compare
he
that to
doesn't
Trump.
look bad
Trump
at
looks
all.
horrible.
Yeah, Trump looks like a fucking wretch. He doesn't like. Yeah, I guess this is like the sort of meme of like the Indian youth factor or whatever the fuck, you know. Like it somehow like Southeast Asia people are always able to stay permanently young or some shit, you know.
I don't know. I don't know what it is, but
I
yeah.
don't get it. I bet it's
Yep.
the rice.
I don't know. It could be the hair oil. It could be the turmeric. I don't know. Who knows? It could be a number of things.
Anything.
But yeah, there you go. But yeah, so basically, this cast of Patels, they used to work under Kshatriya landowners, and they because of Indira Gandhi was prime minister in like the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and of course she was assassinated by the Sikh militants because she basically did genocide against Sikhs in Punjab, right? So, and that's why a lot of them escaped to Canada and the U.S. That's why you see a lot of Sikh temples in Canada and the U.S.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons. Thanks, Indira Gandhi. So she, she was prime minister for like a long time, and so she gave these middle caste Gujarati Patels landowning, the ability to own land, and so then they started getting really rich off dairy because Gujarat is a big state for dairy. There's a lot of dairy, a lot of wheat farming there, and so it's dairy is obviously insanely lucrative over there. So it's lucrative anywhere. I mean, dairy's expensive. So that's how they got rich, and then of course they started owning other businesses and stuff like that, and so they basically became like this landowning kind of merchant caste, and of course now they come over to the U.S. and the whole meme is they own every Dunkin' Donuts and Tim Hortons,
Unironically, yeah.
Yeah,
Like
they do.
The Tims that I go to locally, nothing but Indian workers. There's like some other Tims that have like Canadian workers in there as well. It's all like just in some locations, nothing but Indians. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's like, and I feel bad up in Canada because there's a lack of job opportunities for everybody, not just for Indians, for everybody.
Yeah.
And it's just like, man, I hope you all get out of that. But I don't know when that's going to resolve. So
It's gonna be a shit show.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yep. But yeah, their hearts go out to us. Yeah.
And prices in Gujarat had made the community quite rich in the 80s, and prominent families sought to enter the political sphere and expand the reach of their businesses. Keshubai Patel, Praveen Togadia, and A.K. Patel were big names who attracted big numbers to the BJP. Many may not even know that caste is not even just an Indian thing. This is because caste is not really understood by most people the way white supremacy is. Folks in America can understand easily how white supremacy is tied to capitalism, but many are still incapable of viewing the caste system in India through that same lens, even though both function the same way. Instead, they view
Yeah,
kind of
this
like
was-
a
this was the
disease that
stuff I
every
was
Indian,
yapping about
no matter what the caste
earlier.
is, carries with them abroad like a monolithic hive mind, and it flattens everyone's experiences regardless of class as well. Let me give you 2 more examples to give you a bit more of a global perspective on what caste really is. French folks watching this, you might know of your fellow countrymen, the Cagots. The folks who look exactly like other Frenchmen, who are indistinguishable from other white Europeans. They looked French, talked
Intra-European racism. Here we go.
French, and played
a
like the French.
classic.
So the way French societies
Don't go to the
would
Balkans.
discriminate against them,
If you know,
True.
you know.
meticulously
Don't go to the Balkans.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you know, you know.
Yeah. How does Zizek say it? He's like, where is Balkan? Some people say it starts here, and the Germans say it starts over there.
The clip with him on the bridge. So here
That's
is-
so funny.
Here is the Danube. And it's very beautiful here during the spring.
That is the funniest video, dude.
Zizek is a wacky dude.
I know. I haven't even read his work. He's just like a meme lord to me. I don't know.
It's his movie and about like ideology, the Draspin ideology and stuff like that. He's like got some weird like sort of like class like reductionist take sometimes as well.
I've noticed that.
Wacky dude.
Yeah. Anyway, Zizek another time, but yeah, so the Kago. Actually, there's a friend of ours stream. I don't know. You all should follow. I'm gonna shout them out. Shout them out in the share chat here. Che is our friend from the UK. Yeah, they're British. Oh no.
British.
Yeah, we kicked. my ancestors kicked you out in 1947. Take the L. But yes.
Well, not really.
But yeah, Che has actually covered I think they did a reading of some academic papers on the Kago in France and how they were like basically like this lower caste of French people. So anyway, I'm glad that Rohan brought them up because I think this is like a relatable example for Europeans.
Yes,
like
yeah.
they'll know exactly what he's talking about here.
distinguishable from other white Europeans. They looked French, talked French, and played like the French. So the way French societies would discriminate against them was to meticulously record ancestry. They would use this to determine a class of pure blood French and separate them from the Cago. Discrimination against Cago took many forms, but just like the Osu of Nigeria and Dalits of India, or the Burakumin of Japan, Cago were made to live away from the rest of the French and forced to only take up certain manual labor jobs. In their case, it was mostly carpentry and construction. Pure-blooded French were not allowed to even touch them, and vice versa. In fact, the Cago were also exempt from tax collection later on, because the tax collectors didn't want to touch the coins that
What? Okay, yeah.
Also,
Listen,
they were
the
paid
French,
next to
when it
nothing
came to
any-
racism, they always were the ones who went really hard. Like, I mean, the sort of like revival of the modern anti-Semitism movement came to be because of the French.
Dude, the French go hard on everything. The French go hard on everything, whether it's national anthems, protests, or racism or colonialism. They go hard on everything, dude.
That's true.
Their national anthem goes harder than anyone else's. Just
Damn
listen
French. Darn old French.
to it. Yeah. You didn't know this? Now you do. Now you do, KT.
Anyway, so there wasn't much to collect. In French churches, you will find these small, beastly heads constructed to designate where the Cago were supposed to sit at the back of the church.
Well, yeah, at the back of the church. Well,
Essential to the upkeep of the US. Its construction industry, essential to its food and agricultural systems, are being blatantly exploited. Many don't have contracts and are not paid wages. And when they ask about their wages, the law
Exact
is used
same
against
shit
them.
with
They
the
are
Gulf
branded
states.
illegal.
yeah, with the
1-to-1.
kafala system.
The kafala system, yeah. It's at like
Yeah.
1-to-1.
Yeah, how do you think Dubai was built? How do you think Riyadh was built?
How do you think like that?
My people.
Yeah, that dipshit wall is gonna be built. I think Rohan literally even brings up that stupid ass.
The line?
Arabia, yeah, or whatever.
Yeah, the Naam city or whatever they're building over there. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's all kafala labor from Pakistan and India and Sri Lanka. Like it's
Yeah.
literally us building all that out.
Even as they are waiting for documentation, and then they are dragged out of the country by ICE as privileged Americans cheer with joy. It's like a sick ritual.
Immediately upon taking the oath of office, I will launch the largest deportation program
I love how he made it like almost like a cult ritual.
in American history.
Got it gotta
murderers,
deport 'em.
rapists. So when I was there, I was able to watch one of the flights landing and them unload about 15 different of these criminals. Those were mainly child pedophiles, those that were out there.
Yeah, sure, Christy,
Sure,
sure.
sure,
trafficking children,
Christy. Yeah,
trafficking drugs.
yeah, you're
What percentage
fucking
of your work-
palling around with Trumpstony, you know, the
Yeah.
bro fucking in the flight logs, and probably definitely
Mhm.
definitely went to Little St. James and how he was one of the best friends of Jeffrey Epstein. Sure, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and yeah, who are you calling a PDF file? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, they interviewed a farmer. I remember that.
Yes,
those
this
that were out there
interview was
trafficking children,
fascinating, actually.
trafficking drugs.
What percentage of your workers are not U.S. born?
Probably half.
Worried if there were a mass roundup of undocumented migrants that you might lose workers, you might not have enough workers.
How are they going to do that? Nobody will be filling the shelves, nobody will be producing food. Within 2 days, we will not have food.
Yeah, we're literally, within 2 days, we're gonna have riots. Like,
Yeah, like it's
Yeah.
gonna be tied. But again, I've said this before, the only
Mm-hmm.
way like Americans are gonna learn and understand this is if it like smack dab in the face. That's why I don't like. This is the same point that Vosh says all the time. When the actual fascism does come, the Vonce man himself, the Vorse, when he says like if they actually do it, no one's gonna support it. The support for it's going to immediately tank because American consumers can't do their consuming, right? Like that's immediately just going to be cut off instantly. Like
yeah, I think a lot of people see this is the thing, and I think Marx may have talked about that. Like, this kind of plays into alienation as well, right? Because when we're consuming under capitalism, when we buy something, right, we're kind of alienated from the production of that thing, and so we don't understand the system that brought it to us. Like, even though, for example, like if you're woke and you go to Whole Foods. By the way, Whole Foods is not exactly woke. I don't like it. But if you go to any sort of natural health food store, they'll tell you this is the origin of this produce. Like, it came from here, or it came from over there. Or like if you buy if you go to the butcher, right? The butcher will tell you, okay, the beef, the Wagyu is from New Zealand or whatever. So they'll tell you like where it came from and how far it took to get there. But I think most people, like, when they're consuming like this consumer market we have in America, as soon as we try to do these mass deportations, that consumer market falls apart, and then you crash the economy. Yeah, and then people realize, oh wait, these people were holding it up the whole time.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Instantaneously, everyone becomes a Maoist.
Yeah, maybe those leftists were onto something,
maybe those
10 years ago.
Maybe those darn old lefties were correct or something. It's like,
Yep.
Sorry. We need a dink doink. You need to jingle more keys. Jingle the keys.
Yeah, where are my keys are over there. I need a little like dink donk bell.
Dink donk.
Yeah.
It's like we've been warning.
Yeah.
Like, this is what's gonna happen. It's bad because of all these reasons, but actually, it's because of brown people. Everything sucks. Like, sure, man. Whatever.
Yeah,
Okay, dude.
it's funny. I would love to debate one of those people because I probably make, not to brag, I work as a software engineer. I do make that salary, and so yeah, I can literally tell these people, you keep saying brown people are a problem. I'm literally A, bringing you economic value, and B, I make more money than you. So shut up. So
I'm
there
more
you go.
valuable and I make more money. Get bent.
Yeah. Who's the more valuable alpha male?
Yeah, exactly. Real.
Does Governor Noam understand that? Governor Christy Noam of South Dakota, her farm is just a few miles away.
These factories and corporations and billionaires benefit by the average American not seeing this as a problem. Documentation in America is slow and difficult on purpose, because how else will these industries have a permanent underclass to exploit? Even in this case, you have a curious caste-like
Literally,
division,
like the
where
basis
privileged
of
folk
Congress is it's slow on purpose, right? Because the landed gentry understood, like, I mean, if we educate the masses properly, like, they're gonna know, like, hey, you guys are up to some fucking sussy ass shit. So, like, all of these, like, sort of, like, regulatory steps, unnecessary barriers were immediately put up for the effectiveness of the state to not be able to crack down on shit like this. Like, it's
Yeah,
on
and have you
purpose.
read about Chicano resistance in California? Where a lot of Chicano people, they are like because a lot of Chicano people, they are Hispanic, Latino people, but they're native to California, right?
Oh, those are
So
like the dudes from like the '90s with like the lowriders and shit. That's like there's the sort of cultural phenomenon, right? I think.
yeah, that's like one of their like that's one of the things
Yeah,
they
they're
do.
sort of
But
cultural
like,
killers.
yeah, and a lot of them do rodeo as well. They're big into rodeo. But a lot of them are farm workers, and so you probably remember like the what was it called? The why am I blanking on the name? But the the farmer protests with Cesar Chavez and those movements. I mean, Cesar Chavez was Chicano, and so one of the reasons there's such a demonization of Latino people is because of those farm labor movements in the 20th century. That's like one of the reasons for it. And then of course there was resistance against the U.S. In the Mexican American War. So that's like the origin of this of this hatred against Latino people. Is actually rooted in labor struggle.
Well, generally speaking, that's where it mostly comes from. These sort of the class antagonisms. A funny little guy named Marx wrote about this. He's a funny dude.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyways, yeah. This is I guess this is ICE like rounding up a bunch of people.
This is like the ICE detention shit and like that.
That's happening as we speak.
Folks of minority backgrounds as well who voted for Trump were willing to throw people out who look just like them because they identify with the power and authority that white men wield in America.
Literally, like, who remembers that one dude? That one dude in Florida, his wife got fucking rounded up, and he was just like, "Wait, hold on, wait, I voted for Trump. He came after my wife, my Colombian wife. What the fuck, dude?" Yeah, I did. Like, it immediately like smacks him in the face. It's hilarious.
Yeah, when the passport bro has the realization. Yeah.
I don't think that was a passport.
Unbelievable.
I don't think that guy was a passport.
No, it wasn't? Oh, okay.
No, I don't think so. Not a passport bro. He himself was also Latino.
I will confess, I know somebody who became a passport bro. Like, he made a bunch of money doing like social media, stuff, getting paid for doing that. And then like he took all that money and he like moved his business to Bogota. And now he lives, and he's like, he is a passport bro, like through and through. Let's just say he's enjoying life in Colombia. But yeah, if he gets married, yeah, he runs like an alpha male program too. Like, I don't even talk to him anymore. Yeah, so yeah. But anyways, like,
just come to Colombia. All the girls want to suck your cock, bro. Think about it. Whoa,
yeah.
Crazy.
That was literally one of the last convos I had with him. But like but like he went off to Colombia, and now he's like if he comes back here and he brings and he like gets married to someone there and brings her here, and then she gets deported, that'll hit him in the face. Yeah. Not that would be funny, but sad.
Funny in a very melancholic way.
Yeah. Catharsis.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of there's gonna be more cases like that. Like, more people are gonna get the leopard's gonna eat their face.
The entire Latino community is receiving right now, regardless of what their personal opinions are from other marginalized folks, is exactly what the white boys on top want you to do. The indifferent some Americans who claim to be on the left are showing to brown folks being deported while saying that they voted for them.
Literally, this is also there was a recent article saying that this is now happening to like. I think it was like even like white people, unironically, like German citizens, like who came in here with like all the proper visas and everything to go on like a hiking trip with their American fucking boyfriend. She got deported by ICE. It's fucking crazy. And this was something that happened just today. Like, there was an article about it. It's wild.
Really? Wow. And I also heard I was on, I think I was in Tina 2's chat earlier today. She's also Canadian. She was talking about there was one Canadian woman who was supposed to go to the US for a seminar or something, and she's like and so she got a visa for that, for like she was on work. She was on work travel and business travel. So she had, work visa.
Yeah, I know a buddy who
got detained.
Oh, that's
She got detained, and so she crossed. Sorry,
there's a buddy of mine who he's Romanian like me, but Romanians, we're not like a lot of us, we're not like super pale, super white. Like there's like a spectrum of like Romania. It depends on where you live. He's typically a lot more like browner of skin. I would not be surprised if, because he lives in Florida right now, and I think he's on H-1B visa right now. I wouldn't be surprised if he got detained by ICE. Genuinely, I would not be surprised.
I hope
if that
I hope he's safe.
hopefully not. But like,
yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised. It's like, yeah, this is the administration. This is who we're dealing with. These guys are fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Like a literal Gestapo. Like
yeah, and it's like here in Southern California, like for anybody from Daharumba's stream, if you want to come over and see what I look like, I'm on camera as well. If I started speaking Spanish out here around ICE officers, I probably get taken away because I could pass for Latino. If my accent was good enough. Yep, I would. I'm a brown man with a beard. So there you go.
Brown man with the beard. Yeah, you're getting detained. It's over for you.
Well, what's even more sus is sometimes I go to the barber shop I go to here once a month because I usually cut my own hair, but then I go to the barber shop to get the line correct. And they're all Latinos. They give me the Mexican style clean cut. It's really nice, but boy, it's uncanny how much I pass. What's funny is though, Latino people that I know, they know I'm Indian. Like they know right off the bat that I'm Indian. Like they can see through it. Sock now in my chat says, as a Puerto Rican who now lives back on the island, based from living in the States, the state don't know how imperialist they really are. Yeah, and I know like the whole independence of Puerto Rico. That's a whole other conversation. Like I don't know how ready you all are for that because like independence might be good, but you don't want to be under an authoritarian, right? That's like that's the independence going. Yeah.
Generally, my position on that.
But you kind of are.
Yeah, generally speaking, my position on that is just like if there's a referendum that happens and they want to like become a state, that's like their choice or whatever. If they want to go independent, that they can go independent. Overall, like it doesn't matter to me. But the problem, because you have to like weigh like all of like sort of like potential consequences and stuff like that. Like there's like a whole dynamic and shit. It's like, yeah, whatever Puerto Ricans overall want to vote for and what they want, like it's totally up to them. It's their decision overall.
I look like an old-fashioned Hispanic. I'll take that as a compliment. And then Juan Dalmau is not authoritarian. I'll have to look more into him. I'm curious, like what he would want for like an independent Puerto Rico. I'd love to see an independent Puerto Rico, more autonomy. But yeah,
true.
Let's see. But anyways, yeah, this is let's see. Okay, where were we?
Punishment for an entire bloodline. This is ridiculous and unhelpful, considering the fact that undocumented folks can't even vote. Empathy is dead. All these systems across the world exist for a capitalist society to create a permanent underclass and exploit them. I want you to nail this idea into your head as you watch the rest of the video. Asian Americans had once been demonized by the US government, even called an unassimilable race, with South Asians specifically being called the least desirable race for immigration to the US.
Yeah, this was 1911. Yeah, what was this? The Dellingham Commission report, South Asians' least desirable race of immigrants thus far admitted to the United States. Yeah, back in 1911. And actually, by the way, this was a time when a lot of South Asian migrants were sent by the British Raj to America to work on farms. That's the reason, and yeah.
Yeah, in your chat, Sock now is saying like the statehood movement has a ton of Republicans in it. That is fascinating.
Oh no,
that's really fascinating to me because if hypothetically speaking, the Puerto Rico becomes a state, they would more than likely be a democratic state, more than likely, which is very interesting to me. That a lot of like Puerto Rican Republicans want statehood. That's incredibly interesting.
God. All I can think of is the infamous song, the "Oh My God, I Will Vote." Yeah.
That's true.
Oh boy, that sucks.
Immigration to the US. But during the 1960s, they were transformed into the model minority, a cudgel to be held by white supremacist governments to lecture and beat down black civil rights movements who were fighting for the same civil rights that South Asian folks moving to the US would come to benefit from. Unfortunately, when your government wants to only import the most privileged creme de la creme folks who benefited from caste privilege, this creates a huge political imbalance. at a time when civil rights movements were still active in India, with the likes of the Dalit Panthers in.
Yeah, we had our own panther groups, by the way, in India. So just like the Black Panthers here in southern India, specifically in Tamil Nadu, there was a Dalit Panther movement for fighting caste discrimination and casteism. And of course, today the current form of that is not so much like a Panther movement or like a resistance movement, but they're actually a leftist party in Tamil Nadu. They're very small. I don't think they even have a single seat in state assembly yet, but I think they're going for a couple. But the VCK, Arun talks about the VCK, which I'm not going to pronounce their full name in Tamil because it's hard to pronounce, but it basically means Liberation Panther Party, translated from Tamil.
Right.
But the VCK is like an example of a
very sort of Black Panther coded, like
Mhm.
100%. I mean, like, what was it?
Yeah.
Huey Newton was the one who said this? I always forget the names. Like, he was the one who talked about how
Mhm.
there needs to be like a yellow Panther Party, a brown Panther Party, a white Panther Party, not just Black Panther Party, shit like that, right?
Yep. The Democratic Movement is the Commonwealth Party, which wants it to stay a territory, sadly. Oh, really? That's not good.
That's so strange, I'll be honest.
I have to study more about Puerto Rico.
Like, the fact that it's Republicans who mostly want statehood, that means, like, they think that, like, Puerto Rico would probably go for Republicans, which is just incredibly interesting to me that the territory itself would be a Republican state if it was going for statehood. That's fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, it would become like a really important battleground. That's probably, again, I got to look more into because it's the calculus of this is like,
Yeah,
I can't.
Because that's the reason why DC is never going to become a state ever. Because like,
Oh no,
100% Democrat. That's like 2 free senators for the Democrats right there. Like,
yeah, it's never gonna
freeze the
happen.
free yeah, it's never happening.
Hey, Bracelet Block, good to see you. How's it going? Yeah, we are reacting. I'm with Daharimba, by the way. We're sharing chat with him and everything. Hello, yes. I'm gonna shout him out again. For anybody who came in, check him out, give him a follow. So. Yep, Dalit Panthers mentioned. In fact, I'm gonna try to pronounce Arun. Arun is gonna hate me for doing this. Not really.
Clipped and shipped.
Try to.
Clipped and shipped.
Not really. I'm gonna try. I've been trying to learn some Tamil words and phrases and stuff, but this is the name of the party in Tamil. But yeah, the translation is Liberation Panther Party. But yeah, the VCK is Viruthalai Chirutegal Kachi. Yeah, good luck. Good luck pronouncing that. But yeah, but they used to be the Dalit Panthers Iyakam, the movement. Iyakam, I guess, is movement. But yeah, I again, it's not my native language, but yeah. Vritalai Chirutegal Kachi. There we go.
Amazing.
Yep. Hispanics are conservative. Yeah, I mean, there's social conservatism in there. I mean, there's a very strong family structure. And like, what's funny is I've actually found just living in the U.S., being around Latina people, it's like they are so culturally similar to us from South Asia, and like they'll eat our food, we'll eat their food. It's funny how there's this like.
Yeah, I wonder if this is sort of like a reverse cultural osmosis from like all the ones who fled from Castro because of Cuba, and like the sort of ingraining of McCarthyism, broadly speaking. I bet that's probably why a lot of like Hispanics, generally speaking, are sort of conservative. That and like, you know, there's other like complicated reasonings, like the failures of the Democrats, especially. Listen, that man Bernie Sanders is a reason why like a lot of Hispanics wanted to fucking vote for him, right? Like,
yeah, Bernie, and like AOC, they pull a lot of the Hispanic vote in the U.S. like for the Democrats. The rest of the Democrats don't do a good job of it. In fact, they probably like, if it weren't for the progressives, the Democrats would have lost like every election since Clinton. Probably. Yeah. But anyways, but yeah, let's continue. So the Dalit Panthers, what about them?
Or even the Asian youth movement in the UK, who literally identified as black around the same time, something different happened in the US. Privileged conservatives like Vivek Ramaswamy took for granted the civil rights that were won for them by black power movements. This naturally leads to resentment among minorities and deflects from the white supremacist immigration system that caused this problem in the first place. And rather tragically, also creates a situation where other minorities from South Asia have to take the brunt of the heat for the actions of privileged folks like Vivek Ramaswamy. You know that tweet he made about his apparently superior culture of hard work and blah blah blah? This self-aggrandizing lecture and how he painted all Americans as lazy and not disciplined and so on. That's exactly how privileged class folks have been talking about.
That shit was so fucking goofy. It's like, dude, people that you're trying to appeal to, they're not gonna fucking like that. They're gonna fucking hate that shit, dude. Like, quite literally. That's like the sort of like where the huge backlash, the sort of like emergence of like South Asian like racism sort of like happened significantly yet again with America, was like shit like that. But, well, that and Musk as well. Like, I want my H-1B visas. It's not like, and I mean, we all know why Elon Musk wants like H-1B visa workers. It's because he has like total power and control over them, and he can just be like, well, I can just deport you whenever I want, effectively. So like, yeah, you better make sure you work for me for my fucking like wage that I set for, like the pittance that you're asking for, whatever. It's you know, shit like that.
Yeah, there's also a reason, by the way. So with the recent tariffs and stuff, you probably, I mean, there have been deportations to India, of course, because, you know, ICE does what they do. But you've probably noticed there haven't been tariffs against India. You've probably wondered why that's the case, or at least yet. And one of the reasons for that is because, well, partly it's the H-1B angle, but the other angle is there's obviously a sort of a strong Trump and Modi alliance going on, because Trump knows that India is like, well, you know, Indian immigration is you know, growing every year, right? There's more and more people from India and Pakistan coming here every year, and so you know, basically he doesn't want to. From again, Trump's an idiot. He's probably going to do something to damage the relationship, but he wants to maintain the relationship between Silicon Valley in the U.S. and and Bangalore, right? You know, all the tech companies in Bangalore and in Mumbai and cities like that.
India's a rising power, especially in the region right now. They'll act as a foible against the Chinese.
Yeah, against China. Yeah, it's our foil against. It's the U.S.'s foil against China. It's control of all the shipping lanes in the Indian Ocean, which are super busy because you've got all those ships coming from the South China Sea and the Gulf and Africa. Like it's like if you have control over those trade routes, you can actually take control of the Red Sea with Israel.
Yes.
There you go. That's it. Basically opens up all of that for you. Okay, I think I follow you on Blue Sky. If I don't, I definitely will suck now. I've seen you in other chats, and you, I would love to know more about what's going on in Puerto Rico and the Caribbean. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of him, but I have watched Foreign Man. But yeah, I just hate his drama farming. But I have watched some of Foreign Man's older content about the Bahamas. So that's like. You know, and I found that really fascinating. But like, yeah, once he started drama farming, I was like, yeah, I'm out.
Nuked by the bot. Unlucky.
Oops.
I know that feeling all too well.
Yep. But there you go. Okay.
Marginalized castes in India for generations. So now you have intercommunity conflict. The mere existence of more Indian minorities now in the West shakes the foundation for what it even means to be an Indian in relation to white supremacy.
Yeah, this is a temple. They're doing a worship. They're doing puja or prayers for Trump. This was in Delhi on November 4th. This is like 2 nights before the election in India. This was in India. This was not in New Jersey or where. This was in India.
That's wild, man.
We're crazy. We are cooked. Like, look at this. They even put, so you'll see a lot of people in Brahmins who wear
on their head, right?
Yeah, the bindi. Yeah, the bindi is like their sign that they're, you know, Brahmin or whatever. But yeah, they put the bindi on Trump. They just like edited the photo.
I'm Brahmin like you guys. I'm a part of the upper caste. What can I say?
Yeah. Like, I hate to make fun. like, again, we're not making fun of like Hindu worship or anything, obviously not, but like just the way they've appropriated it for this reason. Like this is just like evangelicals who
Yeah,
who praise Trump as a messiah. This is literally the same thing, just a lot more blatant. Well, just as blatant.
Yeah, it's just as blatant,
And
to be honest.
very meme worthy. Yeah, very meme worthy. This is so funny, man. Bro's playing the. What is this? What did he say? Yeah, look at this. We are praying to God that Trump receives more votes than he did in 2016 and people of America make him victorious. Well, I mean,
they cheated in order to do that. I've talked about this before.
Yeah.
Greg Palast did investigations into the elections, not the elections count out, but there's a committee that he contacted, and they basically told him, like, yeah, like, in a bunch of like different swing states and different districts, here's what the Republicans did in order to have a lot less votes counted. Like it was calculated that Kamala Harris lost about like 3 million 565,000 votes, and it might actually be higher than that in some other accounts as well. And it's all
that could have
because-
swung it for her.
or that would have swung it for her. Like,
Mm.
and it was a lot of it was in like swing states and like swing districts and whatnot. And
Diabolical.
Greg Palast is also talking about like vigilante like poll watchers, like
Mhm.
like dudes who like I think it's like one of his more recent documentaries, where he's like talking about like how Republicans will have like these people hired in order to like make sure that people vote in particular ways or don't vote at all, like vigilante like poll dudes saying like. Well, I better not vote for those Democrats. I mean, you know, we all know about like the closing of like polling locations, gerrymandering, also like purging of voter rolls constantly, and this generally affects the black people. But like I
Particularly,
think
yeah.
it's like 4 times as likely or something to like hit black people or something. I think that's what he said. Like a lot of the testing ground for this is Georgia, and Georgia's a
Very tight battleground.
Georgia's a battleground state, and then that's like the and that's
This guy,
literally
right?
yeah, Greg Palast right there. And that's
I'll have to
his film.
check this out.
It's
Restrictive
crazy.
voting laws. Oh my god, it's literally all the swing states
All
and
the
and
fucking
like
swing
dark
states.
red states.
Mhm.
Wow. Anyways, I'll read more into that, but yeah.
It's a Kyle Kulinski interview. It's not the full thing from his like podcast, but yeah, it's crazy. It's like 3.5 million votes. Ridiculous.
Yeah, what could have been. But anyways, yeah, this guy was praying really hard, you know. That's why. That's why. Yeah, but yeah, like this is out of control, clearly. Oh, there were prayers for Kamala too, which okay. I mean, so Kamala, you have to remember her mom's from southern India. Her mom is actually Tamil. What was rather Tamil. So her mom Shamala, right, was actually from Tamil Nadu. So she's half Tamil. So yeah, a lot of people in southern India were doing like prayers and ceremonies and stuff for Kamala. It was really interesting. In fact, I even joked one time on stream. I said that when this is going, because I saw this was going on, and I'm like, if you think you got a cave hive in America, go to Chennai. That's the K hive.
Yeah, I can only imagine a buddy of mine gets in like fights with K-hivers all the time. Like I bet it must be crazy. And like
yeah, go to Chennai, go to Kerala, go to Hyderabad. That's the K hive.
That's the real K-hive. That's the real.
That's the real K hive.
That's crazy.
Groups who have historically lynched, hung, and beat up Christians, Muslims, Sikhs, Dalits, and Adivasis in India
Oof.
are putting Trump's foot in their mouths. Why are prominent Indian Americans aligning themselves with the apartheid state of Israel? Why does Hindutva rhetoric sound eerily similar to Zionist propaganda? By 1965, India
This.
had only been an independent nation for around 18 years. 18 years was not long enough for a country as diverse and vast as India to break the social shackles imposed by both colonialism, for which you do not need a definition, probably, and homegrown feudal systems like caste. 18 years was not long enough to ensure that Dalit folks...
Yeah, so a lot of Dalit folks, they're like relegated to jobs like this, cleaning sewers. Like you could give them proper equipment and everything and stuff, but they don't because no. And
Oh, they'll
Yep.
get a disease. Oh, we get a 2-for-1 special. Clean sewers and a diseased like one less Dalit Indian, right? Like the
Yeah.
racism and the maintenance of the structure going hand in hand, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know, you know, pastors and like Christian organizations, they will minister in slums, like, you know, this is a slum in Delhi, but they'll also minister in like slums of, you know, all over the place, or in villages and rural areas that are really suffering. And this is like I've seen this. I've literally seen you know, how like the kind of jobs that lower caste people are like relegated to do. And like they'll try to like make money doing this and try to send their kids to school, but then their kids aren't allowed to go to the school because of their caste. Like they're so beat down by all the systems of society that just continue to be shackled by caste.
I do have to say
Human waste for
my
them.
man here is hitting the
Sorry.
clean slap squat. That is feet
Yes.
planted on the ground. Clean slap squat.
I mean, he's got to lift him out of the hole too. So there you
That's
go.
impressive.
Yep, that's some strong calves right there.
Right, yeah.
Hmm?
Hands and the beck and call of privileged caste folks who run the schools, the hospitals, universities, it certainly hasn't been dismantled after 75 years. It was not long enough to dismantle the systems that kept Adivasi tribal folks running from privileged caste landlords who sold their ancestral lands to the government.
Yeah, so India has millions of people, by the way, who are considered indigenous. So they still live in, you know, traditional ways, very similar like indigenous people in America. And you would think, oh, well, aren't you all indigenous to South Asia? And it's like, well, no. If you look at the history of South Asia, there was a lot of migration to the region, and of course,
way more complicated.
Yeah.
Than that. You can blame the Mongols for that one.
Yeah, you can blame Genghis Khan for disseminating his seed. But anyways, yeah, literally. But you know, up north. But also, you know, there was a lot of, you know, in the ancient times, there's a lot of trade with nearby places like Southeast Asia and Africa and stuff. Like there were powerful empires that used to do trade by ship. And they were merchants, right? So again, this has been going on for thousands of years. So there's a lot of intermixing. But the original people of South Asia, they migrated over basically from Africa. About, I think I've heard estimates as early as like 70,000 years ago. And so a lot of them, you'll notice a lot of what they call Adivasi is the word in Indian languages. The word is Adivasi, but indigenous people in India, a lot of them are very darker, are much darker skinned generally. Not always, but generally speaking, are much darker skin. And you know, they live these, they obviously live in like sort of tribal like areas, villages. They live much closer to nature, and they live fairly simply. Like they have some modern conveniences, of course, with time, like they have cell phones and like, but they still live, they still live in their ancestral lands. And so, yeah, but those areas are now being exploited for things like coffee plantations, spice plantations, mining operations, especially as India modernizes technologically. There's a lot of resources to exploit. Why do you think the British exploited us so hard? Because, dude, we're very rich in resources, kind of like the Congo. So,
Similar
yeah,
to Canada.
it's...
Similar, exact same stuff with the Mounties, like, and going after our indigenous populations. But for us, it's like... I don't want to say it's like more in its twilight. I don't know if that's 100% accurate to say, but like, it's approaching that sort of like state where
Absolutely,
like, people are finally being like fully pushed out, but there's still some enclaves that are resisting and winning in court and stuff.
Yep. And by the way, we were talking about Indian billionaires earlier. Adani, there's his name. Adani is considered Modi's Rockefeller, basically, because this guy, Adani, he owns a lot of the mining and even some of the oil refining in India, like the energy industry and also mining. So when Mr. Modi took office, this was back in 2014, so over a decade ago, he flew from his home state in Gujarat to the capital, Delhi. So this is when Modi got inaugurated. He flew to Delhi in Mr. Adani's private jet. This would be literally like if Trump flew to Washington in Bezos's jet or something. Like this is the same thing.
I mean, that's
and opened his...
I mean, that man Elon Musk goes literally everywhere he is. The bro did like a literal ad read just like 2 days ago for Tesla. Like, it's pretty blatant.
Yeah, so this is the same thing, but this happened 10 years ago in India. It's the same thing. Since Mr. Modi came to office, Mr. Adani's net worth, and by the way, Adani has been the center. If you read any of the financial news, he has been like in several corruption scandals, and the dude still came out on top with even more money. Like he just keeps avoiding accountability. So Adani's net worth has increased by 230% to more than 26 billion. And this is an old article. I think Adani's up in the 50 billion now, $50 billion range. So yeah, he's just been, despite all the scandals, he's just been winning, winning so much. We're tired of him winning.
I love winning.
Yeah. Yeah, he and Ambani run the country. Like it's almost like the chaebol, if I'm saying that correctly, the chaebols in Korea. They're kind of like these are the modern day chaebols of India, basically.
I'm going to go.
Who sold it then to big corporations owned by.
Oh, no worries, no worries. We'll take I'll take a little break too. We've been yapping. Yeah. I want to catch up with chat. And yeah, good to see you, Eagle Left in YouTube chat, and Philippe. Good to see you over there. A few people over in YouTube. Yes, we are watching the Rohan Davis video on American Hindutva and caste. It's really interesting because you might not think that this fascist movement that came out of South Asia is like, you might not think that it's something that would have come over to America, but then you realize, wait, South Asian people are everywhere. Now, the thing I don't want to paint a picture of is, I don't want to paint a picture of, oh, all South Asian people must be fascist then. That would be like me saying that, you know, it's kind of the conflation that, like, you know, some people have with Jewish people saying they're all Zionists, which is definitely not true. Yeah, silly. MLs, Maoists, they do it, and of course, Christians will do it to
America suffer for 1,000 years or whatever because of all the perpetuation of supremacy and shit like that. Which is like not an ridiculously inaccurate thing to say, but it's just like they try to like sort of saddle all like white people with that exact same thing. It's like, you know. It's like I also talked about in the covering of the Dex Digi video on Wolfenstein.
Let me put link to your YouTube channel.
Yeah, for sure. You know, I do a lot of yapping.
Well, don't we all?
Hashtag not all white people, and it's important because for whatever reason, a lot of like, and I should expect like this should be expected from people who purport to call themselves Marxists. They constantly fail to do any form of material or social like analysis. Just complete failure of doing any form of like analysis of like material conditions, and it's just like, you're a Marxist, you are a materialist. It comes with the political distinction that you're adopting, and you're not doing it. Okay, that's really weird.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why I try, like, again, I've talked to so many Jewish people, and it's like, yeah, all of them are like, yeah, we don't buy into Zionism, like all of them, every single one, and even, you know, within our, you know, within even this community.
What's the percentage of American Jews that vote for Democrats and that are anti-Zionist?
It's like 80. It's almost 80. Yeah. It's almost 80%. Yeah, it's like 80% of Jewish people vote Democrat. Yep. Yeah. So let me catch up with everybody here in the chat.
That's a whole different story.
Yeah, some of them are Ethan Klein.
I love it. We love it. We love the crash out.
All right, back just a little bit through chat here. Oh, you watched the Brutalist bracelet block? Nice. Yeah, I need to. I don't know. I don't really go to the movie theater, but yeah, I'll have to. Did you watch it? And you said you were gonna watch it in IMAX 70mm or something. That must have been amazing. Okay, and then we were talking about Puerto Rico, then going back through it. Yeah, Adani and Ambani run a lot of stuff in India now. Like I said, Adani owns all the passenger airports, all the passenger, I believe all the commercial freight airports as well, if I'm not mistaken. And then, or the Zaibatsu, if I'm saying that correctly, from Japan. So kind of like those like industrialist sort of, you know, the industrialist caste of like people in that society. You saw it in 70mm. That must have been amazing. I haven't seen an IMAX film in forever. I think the last one I saw was when I was a kid. I saw what was the space movie with Tom Hanks? Apollo 13. I saw Apollo 13 in IMAX 70mm back then. Back needed to move. No worries. You're coding too. You're a fellow tech bro. I see you. Fellow lefty tech bro.
We
Gotta
love our
it.
tech
Privileged
bros.
caste
We
folks
really
like
do.
Adani, the staff of most prominent Indian universities that supply educated brains to NASA or Google and so on in America are privileged caste.
Yeah, so this is the thing in the tech industry as well. There's a lot of Brahmin unks in the tech industry. Okay, I'm just gonna say it right now, as somebody who works in it.
I should know. I've worked with them before. We're both tech bros here. We know. We know.
Yep. And nothing against them. It's just again, they're a lot of times it's like their ignorance shows in a lot of situations. Their ignorance will start to show. And I've also even gotten pushback from some people, like because they'll see that, oh, I'm a Christian from India, so immediately that kicks in for them. It's like they'll say, oh, like they'll ask like how I became Christian, and they're like super weird about it and intrusive with their questions, and it's like, okay, yeah, I know where this is going. So you're doing NLP, natural language processing, with Python based.
This is an indisputable fact.
These are elite engineering colleges whose student bodies, until quite recently, were predominantly upper caste in composition. As with many elite Indian institutions, they were both exclusive and exclusionary. And despite being public institutions funded at far higher levels than other engineering colleges, they were far from representative of Indian society. What is more, their exclusionary character has been justified through recourse to notions of meritocracy. When reserved quotas for underrepresented caste groups have been extended.
To me, folks. Sounds
Yeah,
woke.
but yeah. So oh, this is cool. I don't know if they still meet. I'll have to probably join these people. Yeah, the Ambedkar King Study Circle. Ambedkar, if you don't know, Ambedkar, a lot of people call him like the Martin Luther King Jr. of India, or like one of the figures. Now, of course, Gandhi. Gandhi is. I do not consider like Gandhi. Yeah, he could get people together and put a mass movement together, but Gandhi had a lot of really like sussy
he was very, very like
beliefs.
Nationalist, right? Like he was weird.
Yes. He believed.
He was just like against British colonialism. Yeah, he had some interesting things, if I recall, to say about Hitler, didn't he?
And Mussolini. Yeah, he had regular correspondence with Hitler and Mussolini, and not like critical correspondence. Like he was like buddy with them. So yeah, really messed up. But anyways, yeah. But Ambedkar was he was a lawyer back in the British Raj. He was a lawyer, and he came from a very low caste background. Like, if you read his story, he basically, when he was growing up, so his dad, became like a military officer at the time, and so he had a bit of privilege. He had, his family had some more money, and they could afford to send him to school, and his dad had, of course, the military privilege, but. Despite being a Dalit, despite being very low caste, Ambedkar was when he went to school, they would make him sit on the floor. Like he wouldn't even be given like a mat to sit on or anything. He was not given a desk, and he would sit in the back. So that's like how he was treated growing up. And so he worked pretty hard, and eventually became a lawyer or a barrister. As they say in the UK, say across the pond. But he became a barrister, and then he started to fight for Dalit people's rights in British Indian courts. So that's where his sort of activism began. And then, of course, he started, mass movements. He started to write a lot more, put out literature, go on. Not only, he used to go around and speak and organize, and then help other people start to organize, anti-caste movements. There's obviously other figures in the anti-caste movement during, the time of, during the fight for India, for independence from Britain as well. But Ambedkar was like one of the leading figures. And so a lot of people, so in India, his first name was Bhim Rao. Bhim Rao was his first name. So a lot of people in India who are anti-caste will say Jai Bhim, long live Bhim, because he was, he was like sort of he was like one of the main. He's a lot like, you could almost say he's our Karl Marx in a way, or our like, you could almost say like our Malcolm X in a way, kind of sort of that type of figure. Right. But and of course, he also was the framer of the Indian Constitution. Like it's because of him that we have a constitution in India. So because he's the framer. Yep. So yeah, he was really cool. There's a lot of. I'll have to send you like. some of his there's some good videos on him, but also there's like his writings and stuff too, which are very long. They're very leftist and long, as you would expect. But yeah, this is also a good book too. I need to get this book from Ajanta here, Ajanta Subramanian, The Caste of Merit: Engineering Education in India. Yeah, engineering schools in India are insanely casteist. Like, don't get me started. Your IIT, you've probably heard of IIT, right? The Indian Institute of Tech, right? It's supposed to be, they're all affiliated with MIT.
Yeah.
And but yeah, the IITs are super casteist. Like, there's a lot of stories of like lower caste students like unaliving themselves or being bullied into doing so, and it's just really bad. So, anyways.
To the IITs, they have been met with fierce opposition in the name of protecting merit. Before the rise of lower caste rights politics, both public higher education and professional employment were dominated by upper castes. And this was not just a post-independence phenomenon. Upper castes were massively overrepresented in higher education and the professions from the colonial period. When quotas were implemented, lower caste and Dalit students who entered institutions like the IITs were stigmatized and scapegoated as less deserving, less intelligent, and less capable.
Yeah, and what are Republicans doing now with DEI? They're saying DEI hire if they see a black person, right? Or a black character in a video game.
It's more or less synonymous with the word now. Like, I just I see it. And, like,
that's why I almost hate to say it.
Woke DEI, don't like this.
Why was that held for review? Let me show that. Sorry, in my YouTube chat, not in Twitch. I wish YouTube chat had this sharing feature. I kind of like this, so.
Yeah, they'll get around to it, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. Caste, whenever I hear it, feels the dystopia under those who live from an outsider. Yeah, and well, suck now. I mean, the Spanish. The Spaniards had a caste system too. Like in Mexico, right? When it was New Spain, they used to do it by blood quantum. Like they had a caste system, a casta system, against the indigenous peoples of what is now Mexico. But yeah, it's like it's not really that unique. I mean the caste system you have in South Asia is quite unique just because of the religious underpinnings and the long running imperial underpinnings of it. But yeah, like Spain had had their own as well. I don't know, 70 millimeter and IMAX is cool, Eagle. Sorry, over in YouTube chat. I would love to watch more films on IMAX. That'd be fun. But anyways, yeah. So yeah, there's this whole. So in India, we have a system kind of like DEI. In India, we have a system. It's called reservation, and that's different from the reservation you have in the U.S. and Canada for indigenous people, right? Where it's like they have a certain place they were sent to live by the colonizers. But in India, what reservation means, what it means over there is affirmative action for people from marginalized castes. And from tribal communities. So that's basically it gives them more opportunities to enter education, employment, and the like. So, but, of course, people demonize those programs and say, well, it goes against merit. And, it's like, it's the same old song and dance you hear from conservatives here. It's a similar thread over there.
Fear of exposure and the stigma and exclusion that invariably
Sorry, did I lose you?
has forced Dalit students to try and pass as non
Okay.
When they refuse, sustained scapegoating has sometimes led to tragic suicides, as happened with Rohit Vemula at the University of Hyderabad. What is particularly perverse is that the very upper caste who try to expose the identities of those they suspect of being lower caste are also convinced of their own castelessness. Indeed, they firmly believe that it is lower caste who bring caste into institutions like theirs, where
yeah, it's like DEI is what's bringing the racism in. It's literally the same thing. Like you see the parallel. It's like how caste reservation and affirmative action is bringing caste into the conversation and undoing the concept of merit. And it's like it's literally the same conversation on both sides of the world. I wish that was there. I wish there was a vanguard, just like but again, maybe sock now, but again, the Bolsheviks themselves were very classist, right? I mean, the USSR itself was still like they pretended to be classless, but they weren't. And of course, they were also white Russian supremacists. Like, let's not forget. So yeah, they weren't perfect, but like maybe a vanguard is not what you need, but you need a lot of prefiguration as well. And that's why I think in South Asia, because the thing with South Asia is it's such a diverse, linguistically and ethnically diverse region of the world that it's hard to unite. And through it with a vanguard, like a vanguard could never unite some place that populated, that diverse. It's more diverse than Europe itself, and of course, way more populated. So the thing is that, like, how do you unite? Like, you can't really have unity. You have to have a lot of prefiguration first, like at the local level, regional level. Obviously, there's like anti-caste movements all over the place now in resistance to Modi and sort of the right-wing establishments. There's a lot of that going on, but it's at very local levels, people running for like city council or people running for state assembly, and not even at the national level yet. So, you like Ali?
Yeah, I mean, this is why I constantly say, like, if you want to be able to properly resist stuff like this, it needs to, it has to come from the bottom up. Like, I quite literally see, like, the vanguard system that Lenin suggested. It's literally Platonist. Like, Plato often talked about, like, the sort of idea behind, like, the need for a philosopher king. And I mean, if you think about it, like, quite literally what, like, the vanguardism being pushed by Lenin it's rather similar. Like, we all know that Lenin was he was a dude who was very full of himself and would make fun of like people for being like stupid because they never really understood his arguments, and he like gets into debates with people all the time. It's very sort of like he wanted to be like an essential like philosopher king, more or less, like, and that's like the sort of idea behind vanguardism, a small privileged few who were able to have like education, because like Lenin wasn't exactly proletariat. He was middle class, right? Like more middle class. He attended university and stuff like that. That's something that like a lot of like Russians did not have. That it was still like feudal serfdom for them, and a lot of them were like in terms of like the makeup of the Soviets, the leaders of the Soviets. A lot of them were like highly educated, more like middle class people. Quite a lot of them were. It's like it's not as like based in like a proletarian sort of like a proletarian what's the term I'm looking for, like lens of analysis, as like a lot of like MLs tend to think. Like, not really. Like,
No.
Like Plato would have been a big fan of Lenin.
True, very true. Yes. Actually, Eagle in over YouTube chat brought up the example of Jinnah. So Muhammad Ali Jinnah. So kind of like how Ambedkar like framed the Indian constitution, and of course there were all these other sort of founding figures who started the Indian government. Muhammad Ali Jinnah was the founder of Pakistan. He was the leader of the Muslim League from 1913 until Pakistan. There was the partition, and then Pakistan, which the partition was basically a genocide. I mean, I don't know how else to characterize it. It was a genocide.
About that. Yeah, it's
like 1 million plus people. Yeah, more than 1 million people died.
Shit like that.
Yeah, more than 1 million people died on both sides of the partition, and so, but this guy, he initially wanted religious unity and pluralism, and a single like South Asian state. But then, by 1940, a couple decades later, he had basically reached the conclusion. And I think part of it is he probably ticked off all the Brahmin Hindus who were also, sort of the founders of the modern Indian government. Probably got ticked off at them and said, okay, well, if you keep wanting to marginalize Muslims, and keep wanting to marginalize us, then he advocated for a separate Muslim state. So that's where the idea of Pakistan came from. But yeah, that's now you're seeing sort of that. Now you're seeing how like you're kind of seeing like you're kind of seeing how complicated the rather complicated this region of the world gets.
I mean, I'm more or less already knew that. Like, there's a lot of I've seen some history videos about it. It's fucking wild.
Yep. But yeah, there is casteism in a lot of institutions in the U.S. now, because especially where South Asian Americans are like more present in it, whether it's like the practice of medicine or in technology or in in places like in academia, and now of course in government. More and more of them are going government. So that's why you have the likes of Vivek. That's why you have Kash Patel. That's why you have I mean, I don't know how much influence she really has anymore, but Nikki Haley, because Nikki Haley, her real name is Nimrata Randhawa, and she is actually from
not much.
Yeah,
I'll be honest. I think
so
it's like emblem of like a dead sort of like a party.
Pretty much. But yeah, Nikki Haley, her parents are originally from Punjab. They're Sikhs from Punjab. And then they came over and then she was born here. But like, yeah. Yeah, and the RSS, they popped off in the 1940s. That's correct. And what's interesting is, we say Gandhi was like adopted all the Hindutva nationalist ideals. The craziest thing about it is when he was assassinated in 1947, right at the time of independence, it was an RSS militant who assassinated him. Someone he would have agreed with. It's ridiculous.
That's
yeah.
so fucking funny.
Man, I guess he wasn't fascist enough for them.
Yeah, wasn't Hindu enough or whatever the fuck.
Nah, he wasn't violent enough for them, clearly.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah. But that's what she's talking about here. That's what Ajanta is talking about here. And I should get her book on that. The merit of castes. I think that I'll have to read that.
It previously didn't exist. For IITians, the fact of being engineers contributes to this mythology of the casteless upper caste self. Most upper caste engineers believe that their professional successes are due entirely to their own innate abilities and have nothing to do with being long-standing beneficiaries of caste and of the state.
Who
Even when they
remembers like
acknowledge
the
forms of
argument
caste
that all
affiliation-
those like dumbass like Discord groypers like were having with like Elon Musk all the time? Like literally like one of them talked to Elon himself. And they were talking about like, wait, you're supposed to like, you're the one who's supposed to be giving like tech jobs during like the whole H-1B visa like.
Yeah, I remember that.
Story. Yeah,
they were so mad, dude.
Literally, it's the exact same fucking shit's going on here.
You know what's interesting too? Like even when I saw that discourse, like I'm a naturalized U.S. citizen, so I don't even have to worry about H-1B. I've been here, hence my accent, my Americanized accent. I've been here since I was 4 years old. I've never needed an H-1B visa, but I know a lot of people who are or have been on H-1Bs. I've even known people who've like had to go back, coworkers, friends, people in the diaspora. I know like a lot of people have had to go back when their H-1B runs out and they couldn't get a green card. And especially now, it's getting super hard to get a green card. Try. I mean, it's super hard if you're not European.
I mean,
no.
Right? Like that's the whole debacle that's going on right now.
Yep, free Mahmoud. Absolutely, free Mahmoud. Yep. And so yeah, but what's kind of interesting though, and and probably Rohan will get to this. I keep stealing his thunder, but basically, cringe. Basically, a lot of these sort of really rich. You've probably noticed like a lot of these really rich Indians who've been here for a long time, who are U.S. citizens, who get into power, like Vivek, like Kash Patel. The reason they're so anti-immigrant is because, again, they think of themselves as having merit and themselves being casteless, and that's what Ajanta's talking about here. Is like, they came from an upper caste background, but because they achieved the American dream, caste is no longer a thing for them. But then, if you by the way, in one of Vivek's books, I forget which book it was. I think it was Woke Incorporated. Funniest title for a book ever. But he was talking about DEI. And in one chapter in the book, he actually talks about caste reservation in India. This is like the chapter everybody overlooks in that book because they don't understand it. But as a South Asian person, he literally wrote in that book, and I'll send you the excerpt of it. But he wrote in the book, he's like, well, in India, we have caste reservation, and it's the same problem. It's the same, DEI, ESG. He's like, in India, we already fixed caste because, my Brahmin family, we can order pizza from Domino's because Domino's has chains all over India now. We can order Domino's pizza. We can order Domino's pizza, and a Dalit taxi driver, the Dalit delivery driver, will show up at our door and give us our pizza, and we'll tip him, and we don't have a problem touching the same box he touched. Like he literally wrote this in his book, Woke Incorporated, and everybody glossed over it. And
that's fucking
like obvious casteism in that book. Yeah, I'll send you the excerpt.
Bro, we don't see race. Like the black
we don't see caste.
Yeah, we don't see race, dude. The black delivery person, or the like Indian delivery person gave me my food and I didn't have the ick when I touched it, bro. Like think about it, man. Like one to one comparison.
Yeah, I gotta find it. I gotta dig way back in I think I posted it like a couple of years ago, but yeah, it had me rolling, dude. It was so funny.
They deny caste as a structural advantage. By contrast, they accuse lower caste students who have overcome severe social obstacles to attend institutions like the IITs of being the illegitimate beneficiaries of caste. The college admissions categories of the general and the reserved only reinforce this perception.
Yes, exactly. Eagle says in Eagle says in YouTube chat, we are caste blind. Correct. It's not that these people don't see caste. They are purposely blind to it because the system benefits them, so they don't have to think about it.
Yeah, exactly. It's same shit with white supremacy in the U.S. They don't see it on purpose because they benefit from it, so they don't see it.
Nope.
Caste is only present on one side of the equation.
To put it bluntly once more, they are the gatekeepers who prop up the children of other privileged caste families, while filtering out marginalized caste kids who they think are inherently unworthy or deserving of higher education.
Inherently unworthy. Imagine that is such a crazy thing to say, right? But that's how a lot of these people think. And you have to think, like, a country of 1.5 billion people, there's millions of people who think like this. That's scary. It's scary to consider that. That is really scary. But yeah, there's hundreds of millions of people who think like this. Yeah, truly terrifying.
Purely due to their birth to a marginalized caste family. Faculty in top universities in India also tend to turn a blind eye to harassment and bullying, which often leads to the suicide of many marginalized caste kids in India. This is intentionally done to ensure that the right kind of Indian, according to them, gets positions in government or gets to go work in the US.
The good ones.
Where, of course, those privileged caste CEOs will work hand in hand with other Americans and millionaires and billionaires.
These three in one photo. Thanks, Rohan. This is the blunt rotation.
Who's the Balaji?
Balaji Srinivasan. Oh, he's one of those Vivek types. He is soup brained. He's so soup brained. I should probably roast him at some point because he is very Trump bootlicker.
Trump bootlicker. That's true.
By the way, in both our chats in our Better TTV, we do have the bootlicker emote. And by the so that emote, I have Sagar and Jetty with the sort of orgasm face. And then he's licking, he's like swallowing a Trump sneaker, the Trump golden sneaker that he sold.
He's literally a part of White House press corps now. Sagar and Jetty. Yep.
And by the way, that guy's, he's from southern India too, Sagar and Jetty. He's from like a Brahmin family as well. It all tracks with this guy. And not the three horsemen of the apocalypse, and that's the fourth one, Sagar and Jetty right there. He's in the White House press corps now, and so I have his emote of him. But that face of Sagar, I got it from this video. So you'll see Sagar later, and I got a freeze frame of him with that face from this video. So thanks Rohan. Half partial credit to Rohan for that emote.
Thank you, Rohan, for the bootlicking emote. Very cool. Very cool.
Yep.
To aid in the exploitation of other human beings, and not just Indians, other black folks and minorities as well. And it is a big misunderstanding that caste is something that only affects Indian folks. Because at its heart, again, caste is inherently anti-worker. The story of South Asians in America doesn't really start in 1965, though. It started in the 1800s, and it's important to shine a light on this part of American history. You won't hear about this from Hindu nationalist organizations either, because the first Indians to make it to the US were fleeing caste apartheid and British colonialism. They were predominantly Sikhs, Muslims, Dalits, and Adivasi. The definition of the word Hindu was also different at this time. It was not a religion. It was an exclusionary racial term, and I'm not going to rehash that again. I've done so in 2 of my previous videos. Go watch those after this if you'd like. But anyway, privileged caste folks didn't want to make the move to the US at this time because of the curse of Kalapani, the belief that you would lose your high caste status if you were to travel across the ocean. Privileged caste folks believe.
Yeah, this is what people believed in the 1800s. Like, again, people believed a lot of ridiculous things back then. But they,
so interested, like, they eventually sort of
bridged
that gap, right? Like, they come up with like a sort of like justification. So as to actually, no, you don't lose your high caste status now if you like leave the subcontinent, which is crazy to me. I mean, it's like a lot of like the Mormon beliefs, for example, of like or whatever the fuck, the stupid nonsense.
Yep. And in fact, these days, I don't know if you've ever been in my chat before, like random like people from India will come in and say, because I have the India tag and the USA tag, and then I also have the English and Hindi tags to indicate that yes, I am bilingual or multilingual. I can talk in the other language. they will say, "You are not real Indian." They will say that, and I obviously am using the voice, but they'll say, "You're not really Indian." I'm like, come on, I was born over there. I literally speak the language. Like I've gone back so many times. Like, what do you mean? Because I immigrated out. So it's like this narrative still.
It's clearly because you're woke, boy meets Minnie. Come on.
True. It's very woke, very DEI. Yeah. I'll say it again. I think Jinnah equals Gandhi, even if Jinnah wasn't perfect. Jinnah over Gandhi, not Jinnah equals. Jinnah, yeah, of course. Yeah. I think Jinnah had a lot better intention initially with like religious unity and pluralism in like a liberated India, like united India. But yeah, like eventually he was like, I give up with these Brahmins. We're just gonna do our own Muslim nation and call it Pakistan. Yeah, like yeah, I get why he gave up.
That the ocean was the resting place of the gods, and to travel across them would disturb them. Many of these early South Asians in the US worked manual labor jobs in places like Bellingham in Washington and parts of California. This was during a time when the country was trying to define who gets to be an American citizen. Naturally, being the white supremacist settler state that it is, citizenship was initially granted to free white folks. The category of Asian was added much later, starting with the Chinese in 1870, Japanese in 1890, and much later, Koreans, Filipino, and Indian folk were added to the category of other. South Asians actually played a huge role in the creation of the blanket category of Asian.
Which I find
all
it
thanks
very
to white workers in California.
This is all consequence of the Chinese sort of Exclusion Act, right? As like because what it was like America was like broadly fearful of the influence that a lot of Chinese workers were having because there was a lot of them immigrating at that point in order to try to work in America, like in like around the 1800s. There's like a lot of like propaganda about that shit. It's crazy, right? That's like the sort of like idea behind that.
Yeah, I don't know if you know this too. So down here in Southern California, I don't know. Have you ever heard of the 1906 Santa Ana Chinatown burning?
No, I don't think so. No.
So basically, what happened in 1906 in Santa Ana, which is in Orange County, it's near LA. It's like right over by Disneyland. So Santa Ana, which I think is the county seat of Orange County. No, the county seat is either Anaheim or Santa Ana. It's one of the two. But anyways, it doesn't matter. But Santa Ana.
Orange County, so that means it's cringe automatically, right?
True, and they were really cringe in 1906 because you know what they did. Back then they had a Chinatown, and of course it was segregated. This was 1906, so there were white people, and then there was mostly white areas, and then there was the colored areas where mainly Chinese Americans lived. Well, what they did in 1906, the leaders, the white leaders of the city, who were super racist, and they did this around Chinese New Year, by the way, super offensive. They set up like stands where people could sit and watch. They sold tickets, and people from like the hill, like they would like overlook the Chinatown. They burned Chinatown as a spectacle for white people to buy tickets to. I'm not joking. Yeah.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. This actually happened in 1906, right here in Southern California. Yep. And so, yeah. So, and this is because it was a sundown town. You have to remember that too. There were a ton. Most of the suburbs of LA, the LA Metro, were sundown towns before. Yeah, the pluralism. Yeah. Sorry. No. Let me read Eagle's chat. Jinnah tried it in Pakistan too, but he died in a year. Rip. Yeah, the pluralism. Yeah, it's just again the British with their partition were like. They were way too effective with that stuff, unfortunately. I mean, of course, the genocide at the partition border, but yeah.
Drawing some lines, and it's gonna work out.
Yeah. I gotta go turn on my lights real quick. It is sunset now in California, so cringe, I know. I'm gonna let the video play though, let Rohan explain some stuff, but I'll be right back in a minute. Sure. So, here we go.
Wanting to get rid of all Orientals, because apparently they were taking all the jobs in the 1800s too. Things have not changed. Americans adopted the exclusionary racial term of Hindu, the exonym codified by the British to refer to all Indians regardless of religion. In 1982, the US started with the Chinese Exclusion Act. Then as the racists did more research, they found out that those brown folks who didn't look exactly black or white or Chinese also came from Asia. So in 1907, they renamed it to the Asian Exclusion Act to include all Indians. By this time, immigrants from the Indian subcontinent were viewed as a bigger threat than other Asian groups thanks to their active anti-colonial action in India, which threatened the wealth of the British Empire.
Sorry, you were saying something. I just
Oh yeah,
I just hit the
like
switch.
Rohan just mentioned about the Chinese Exclusion Act, eventually morphing into the Asian Exclusion Act, right? Like,
Yep.
to include Indians as well, because the racist fears, stupid fear mongering bullshit, standard stuff like that.
What is this? A game of football is played by certain Westminster boys. Oh my goodness.
This is really and true.
Yeah. No, this is what they did.
Real.
Wow.
We're kicking the ball.
Not to mention the
Too bad we beat them at cricket. Too bad.
anti-colonial actions in India, which threatened the wealth of the British Empire. Not to mention the eventual formation of anti-colonial groups like the Ghadar Party in the US, led by Dalit leader Manguram Mugovalia. This was a group that sought to overthrow the British Raj by any means necessary. In 1907, race riots directed against Indian.
Yeah, this was right here in California and British Columbia. Like the whole west coast of North America, like from British Columbia all the way down to California.
Yeah.
Have you heard of this in like Canadian history? Do they teach this about the Ghadar Party?
Definitely not. No.
Ghadar. Yeah. Okay. Probably not. It's probably like really, really specific. But yeah, this was yeah, it was a revolutionary movement driven by the Sikhs, Hindus, and Muslims of the South Asian community spanning BC to California. Yep. Anti-colonial resistance movement. Yeah, this is like early 20th century. Pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I should probably talk about him at some point, like do like a history overview. But Rohan is probably got something in the works. Who knows?
Immigrants by white workers spread across the North American West Coast.
Yeah.
The first took place in Bellingham, Washington, followed by others in Seattle, Everett, Vancouver, and parts of California. In 1910, a Senate commission declared Indians the least desirable race, the modern-day commonly held sentiment of low desirable.
And this is another thing too. Notice the language in here. See, it says Hindus.
Yeah, exactly.
But we're Sikh, we're Muslim, some of us are Christian, some of us are Buddhist,
That's the whole British the distinction where they're doing the whole conflation, right? Like the
Mm-hmm.
same thing happened with like black people, right? They conflated them all as like just like under a particular banner, even though like there's a lot of different types of black people that happen that have existed.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep, and that's how we were regarded as. And what's so funny is like I'll bring this up. Like I've argued with Hindutva nationalists before, which is a bad idea. A lot of brain rot. Like I can take it because I have to deal with the unks. I got to deal with the uncles. But the thing is that they will say, well, you're Indian, therefore you're Hindu. I'm like, you do realize you're saying the same things the white nationalists were saying a century ago and still say today. They regard us all as Hindus. Like like you do realize you're doing the thing, right? And they don't care. Because it preserves a hierarchy for them. That's why. Like they prefer it. So.
Ability for
Sorry, I'll go ahead.
Stems from events like this. The British helped the US craft exclusionary policies directed at British Indian subjects who lived in the US. A series of congressional hearings on quote-unquote Hindu immigration, because of course they included all religions, were held in 1914. And Denver S. Church, a congressman from California, suggested a bill defining Asia based on geography rather than race, to encapsulate all the different ethnicities. This is how they came up with the Asiatic Barred Zone, a zone defined by longitudinal and latitudinal coordinates preventing labor from India from entering the US. This heavily
all the
stymied the flow
purple
of
zones are what's being excluded, I assume.
Let me see what he said again.
A bill. This is how they came up with the Asiatic Barred Zone.
Barred Zone. Okay, so the Barred Zone is the purple zone. Yeah. So look how many places they exclude: Papua New Guinea, all of Indonesia. Yeah, they literally.
China.
Yep. All of Central Asia and Afghanistan, right? And then of course you have like all of Western China. So, all the like Tibetans and Uyghur people. And then of course, they only allowed people from like Japan, Korea, and Cantonese and yeah.
Or the Han Chinese mostly.
Yep. And then of course they carved out a special exception for the Philippines.
Yeah.
To exploit them, sadly. Yeah, I mean they exploited all of these people. Let's be honest. Like even though this map has like this, like they had this barred zone, and then they had this allowed zone, and then special like status for Filipino. All of these people have been exploited by the U.S. economy. Like there's no difference in the exploitation.
True.
So.
zone defined by longitudinal and latitudinal coordinates preventing labor from India from entering the US. This heavily stymied the flow of immigrants from India while making travel for white British colonies much easier. Many Indians still tried to move though. Many folks crossed a literal ocean to get away from caste apartheid. And many did it by seeking employment on ships. Once they got to the US, many folks would report their race as black or Hispanic. Vivek Bald has written an interesting book on this called Bengalis in Harlem. I suggest you check that out. So basically, South Asia.
Oh yeah, I need to read that. That's a great book. Bengalis in Harlem. I think it talks about this history. Where is it? I wonder if you can even get it. Yeah, okay, it's a 20. Yeah, it's a 2013 book. So I don't know if it's in print still.
Could be like archived or something.
Yeah, I hope it's archived for public use. But yeah, Bengali Harlem and the Lost Histories of South Asian America. But like, yeah, there was like this unity between like black communities in Harlem and like people from South Asia, just particularly people from Bengali people from like Bangladesh and and Kolkata and those places. So oh yeah, Bengalis are super revolutionary. Now some of them were really problematic, like Maoists, the Naxalites, but otherwise, yeah, no, Bengalis are doing some really revolutionary things, like back in especially the independence movements and even post-independence. So yeah, they're pretty, there's a lot of history there, and of course, they carry that with them wherever they go.
We love our history, folks.
Yeah, go check. I'll have to find a link to like a print version of this. If not, I hope it's archived somewhere. So I'd love to read this book. Anyways.
Asians technically didn't exist in the US, even though they did. Many folks just assimilated into other communities. After this long gap in restrictive immigration and the US economy getting to a point where capitalists needed to bring in lower wage
Thank you, Reza.
and brain power with less pesky rights to fill their ranks. In doing so, of course, they knew they would be effing over the American workers in the name of profit, but they weren't going to let that stop them from attaining higher margins. The civil rights movement was also in full force. Black folks were fighting for basic human rights. The brutal murder of 14-year-old Emmett Till in 1955, the subsequent acquittal of his murderers by a jury comprised of white men, the decades after this would be bloody, and America saw the emergence of black leaders like Dr. Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, Malcolm X, and many more. The incremental, hard-fought wins of the civil rights movement is what won the Voting Rights Act of 1965, without which non-white folks in the US would not have voting rights. Now, the 15th Amendment of 1870 technically removed the racial barrier to vote, but of course, states continued to discriminate anyway. And before that, only white men above the age of 21 who also owned property had the right to vote. Anyway, after just 2 months
as the founding
of the Voting
fathers
Rights Act,
intended. The funniest thing, like that was also something that was covered in Dex Digi's sort of like video as well, where like the Nazis were very interested in how like America was able to create second-class citizens, but in like a very like law-oriented, non-overt way. It's similar to like the sort of like caste discrimination as well, but it's more like cultural. It's not necessarily like cemented in law, but the similarities are sort of there. It's like that you could
the subtlety. It's a similar kind of subtlety. It's just a different means. Yeah. And then the other thing too is like again, to any South Asian people who might be watching who voted for Trump and completely disagree with me and are mad at me for being woke, understand that if we were to go back to the 1776, like there's a whole 1776 movement now, right, with Republicans, which is obviously a meme, but like there's just it stems from the idea that they want to go back to what the founding fathers wanted. Indian Americans, even if you have naturalized citizenship, first of all, I don't know if they'd let you stay. But even if they did let you stay, you wouldn't be able to vote. So you couldn't sing the "I will vote for Donald Trump" song. You wouldn't be able to sing that anymore because you're not white and landowning. You just own land. So like, you still wouldn't be able to vote. So like, I wish these people would realize that like the leopard is going to bite them in the face over and over and over again. Like, when will they get it?
Yeah, every single time. It always bites them.
Passed in 1965, the Immigration and Naturalization Act was also passed. The efforts of black folks won the act that allowed Vivek and Apurva Ramaswamy's parents to immigrate to the US. And his parents had that privilege early on only because of benefiting from caste apartheid, and not this mythical idea of merit and hard work. This dude wouldn't have been able to even try to run for president if it weren't for black folks. But being the cynical little opportunist, he realized that to win in America, you need to get on the good side of...
Hey, Brahmin uncles, this is you.
White supremacy. You need to rub the feet of power and rub it good. Maybe put a toe in your mouth. And how do you lick the boot better?
What is on that man's boot?
I don't want to know.
I don't know. Like, why? Why are you doing this?
I don't know. Yeah, but Rohan put it in here for obviously like effect. But yeah, there you go. Yeah.
You need to rub the feet of power and rub it good. Maybe put a toe in your mouth. And how do you lick the boot better than by shitting on black folks
Bootlicker.
for white supremacy? It's like a prerequisite.
Yeah, I still
it's
can't.
Like stupid cringe.
Let me 1x that. Let me 1x that for everybody.
And by shitting on black folks on
lose
behalf
yourself,
of white supremacy. It's like a prerequisite.
Dude, nails on a chalkboard voice too. That's stupid. Why did he think that was gonna get him votes? Like he what?
Literally, that's a song about overcoming adversity, and that man has never faced adversity ever in his life. Which is the funniest part about fucking Vivek Ramaswamy singing "Lose Yourself." It's so.
I know,
goofy.
and okay, even Vivek's parents, like, okay, Vivek's parents weren't billionaires. So this is the thing with Vivek, right? Vivek's parents weren't billionaires. But his dad and his mom are both like accomplished professionals in their field. Like his mom, I think, is like I forget.
Pharmaceuticals, I think she works in.
Yes, she's a pharmaceutical scientist, and then his dad was an engineer at GE for like a long time. He's like a mechanical engineer. So like they were like what would you say, petit bourgeois, they were petit bourgeoisie, basically.
Maybe. I mean, it depends if they were managers or not.
Probably. Or if they were like, yeah, like if his dad was like a manager or became a VP eventually, like they were they were way up the corporate ladder. And so his parents were really well off. Like they were probably making 6-figure salaries like easily, or the equivalent of that today. I mean, Vivek grew up in the 90s probably, right? He's, how old is it? Vivek is like my age basically, because I'm going on 36 this year.
He's like 30 something.
He's 39. So he's 3 years older than me, and this dude's a billionaire. Okay. Yeah. He doesn't act his age though. He's so childish in his thinking.
He's trying to be like a Mark Zuckerberg, except he doesn't have the stupid broccoli cut perm. Okay.
No, he has the he has the well, I guess he's trying to do he's Jimmy Neutron in the making, basically. Yeah.
Brain blast.
Literally.
has asked Republican presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy to stop using his music at his campaign event.
Oh yeah, Eminem told him stop or I'll sue you.